Yeah, hello. I believe we are live. So welcome everybody that is watching. Today we are gonna geek out with Star Wars stuff and some models, and talk about projects that Luke has been doing. It's it's like a themed event, make daily team that are the guest stars of the show.
Hi guys.
But for starters, I want to do introductions. So we will start with Kat.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katja, but on Twitter and the rest of the social media, I'm Kat3D, and I have a small little YouTube channel where I do lots of different stuff. I don't really have something that I focus on. I like to assemble printers. I do create things like these, where I combine 3D printing with other stuff. This was a handbag that I printed and then knitted, crocheted, and I also am experimenting with resin printing. So yeah, gonna try to paint that stuff in the near future. And I also show the post processing and the printing itself, and I will also cast in the near future. But I still have some things missing. For instance, like a furnace, preheating furnace. Yeah, and material tests and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And Mia, you're up.
Hi, hi, I'm Mia. Most people know me from Twitter as DasMia3. I also have a YouTube channel, which is called DasMia3 as well. And I'm mostly doing colorful stuff. Lately, I'm working on hexagon filament, self-printed hexagon filament, where you can do nice things like that, where I hope you can see that, where color is changing while it's rotating.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll do my intro, and then we'll transition to Luke and Karen. And so I'm Marteinn. I have a channel called 3DP Iceland. I've been doing a lot of landscapes like this. I 3D print them and paint them out. Been like a hobby of mine for quite some time, and I bring those to shows and give out to people. Like at Murph, I brought over 20 pieces, like models of mountains and areas and glaciers in Iceland. So that's one of the things I do. But I do quite a lot of different stuff on my channel: material testing, filament testing, and Star Wars models. Show you here a few models I've been doing lately. Doing like a series on my channel. Also doing upgrades on my printers and build projects. So quite a lot. Quite
Nice.
a lot of projects. So that's me, 3DP Iceland. But switching over to Luke, if you do like short intro and then we'll go into questions.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Luke, and this is and Karen. We've got a YouTube channel called Make Daily. We've probably been making for maybe 4 to 5 years now.
I'd say so.
But we're only really starting to get into the YouTube space. So we make replica props from Star Wars, Marvel. Also in the past 2 years, we've been involved in making some set props. So we made a 1-to-1 replica of a Millennium Falcon cockpit, which was probably our biggest project. I'll share the link later in the chat, and you can share some of the photos. And really, it was after we came out of that so many people were like, why didn't you record this process? Like, why didn't you, like, where's the video? And they were like, well, we don't have one. So
it was, we're working on it and thought about it later.
And we started watching people like Punish Props, Nevin and Caitlin, and we're like, we really want to start sharing all these adventures we've been having making props, instead of people just thinking we come in our house and then don't see anybody. So we've got a Lulzbot and a Foam Labs. So we do a lot of molding and casting and painting, and that's pretty much us really. We're just trying to make the best things we can, and 3D printing is sort of one of our core tools at the moment, really.
Yeah.
But that's us.
That's what we do.
Yeah, awesome. I was looking like on the web page and with a big Star Wars Millennium Falcon cockpit project.
Yeah.
Is that for like a company that was asking for that set for a movie, or what was the like initial? Why did that come about, or how did it come about?
There's an event in the UK that runs called UltraCon UK, run by a guy called Rob Ormondroyd, and he contacted me and he sent me this very secretive photo. He sent me just a small snapshot of a piece, and he said, could you print this? And I went, well, not really, because it had some holes in it, and I knew it was like a geometry from a game. And so I says, well, look, let me redraw it. Give me some reference. So I redraw this thing. I honestly thought it was something from Back to the Future, because it was one tiny little detail. And then he goes, okay, look, I'm going to have to tell you, we're doing a Millennium Falcon cockpit. And so it started from modeling one piece to modeling, I think, over 150 pieces.
That was a lot of pieces.
So we cleaned up, sanded, printed, painted, weathered, just did an intense amount. It was 2 years of a lot, and the end result was it was shown at a convention in the UK. So every year there's an event called UltraCon that happens in Yorkshire. It hasn't happened for the last 2 years because they're busy working on some changes. But it's normally there, and it's fully lit up. You can walk up on the ramp, sit on the seats, play with the yoke. It's an experience.
It is an experience.
But it was a labor of love.
It was a labor of love,
to put it lightly.
There was so many times I think I wanted to cry just from the amount of sanding and sleepless nights of trying to get it done. But
it was. It's really
impressive to look at it now and kind of think we worked on that. But it was definitely a labor of love. Yeah,
it was. But great fun. But so effectively that was our biggest project. We've done things like Kylo Ren and other costume pieces, but the Falcon is probably the biggest project that we've been involved in today.
Yeah, I saw like your Kylo Ren helmet. You were doing that quite some time ago.
Yes,
and then but like for that Millennium Falcon cockpit, like do you have like your own facility to do it in, or how? Because it's not like something you do in your living room.
No, it's not. It's not. But you'd be surprised because
we had a lot of the stuff in the living room.
A lot of the stuff was in the living room for a long time. So we had like chairs in the like full like the Millennium Falcon nav chairs just sat in our living room. We were sat eating dinner once in these chairs, and we just sat there like, oh my god, this is so much fun.
They became our gaming chairs.
Yeah, they did. They were so much fun. And really, there's a storage unit down near where the exhibition takes place. So we were traveling down every Friday night after work, and then we were staying there all the way through till Sunday, working on things, whether it's painting, installing, carpentry, whatever, and sometimes weathering in situ. And then coming home on the Sunday night and going to work at 6 a.m. in the morning and then doing it all again. And that was...
Well, I would say months. So there
was easily a 6 months straight before the event that we just did that, and it was hell, but I loved it.
Yes.
It was a very productive pain.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we have two more people joining in, and I want to give them a chance to do their intros.
Sure. Yeah.
So Richard and Don, are you all mic'd up and ready?
I think I'm mic'd up now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we hear you. So if you want to run through your intro.
Oh, my name's Richard Murray. I've been on this Hangout for almost since the beginning. I think I missed the 2 episodes, but so I'm an old timer with this. My focus has been on 3D printing for model trains, but I seem to have, as many have, gone a different direction, and I'm printing all sorts of stuff now. But my daughter's better half is a member of the 501st.
Yes, we are.
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, he got a job. He works in art departments for movies, and he didn't make it to the Chicago celebration. He had tickets, but he had to cancel.
It's a small price to pay to work on the actual films, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he's working on the next Ghostbusters or something like that.
That'd be love that.
And they do incorporate 3D printing for the work. Yesterday, I got an email wondering if I could do some photometry for them, but they went and shot the scene before we even got started on the discussion. So, anyways, you can see my contact info on here. The best thing to do is go to zidim.com and you can find out what I'm up to.
Yes, thank you. And over to you, Don, if you want to do yours.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Don, the German 3D printing nerd.
Hi.
And well, mostly I'm into science fiction, 3D printing, fantasy models every once in a while. And just to let you know, yes, I am a Star Wars fan.
I approve.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Oh.
Uh-oh, now Martin's going to come up with one. Yeah, if you go to my channel, you can find all the information that's needed.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. And since you showed off your X-wing, I have to show off mine. This was like my first Star Wars model in a series. Don got me hooked on doing those models.
That is beautiful.
I've been buying them from Gambody, and they're quite detailed, and there's like so many hours worked on getting the weathering and sanding and all the work done. So it's probably 40 hours on this model or something. So I want to show that.
Beautiful. It's a really nice job.
Yeah. Hey, Martin.
Yeah.
Hey, Martin, does the name Di Agostini, does that say something for you?
I'm not sure.
Di Agostini, they make models, and then you can get every month a package from them, and
Okay.
you can build something.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been receiving packages for the last 12 months, and as you can see right here, this is one of the wings, and if I hook up the battery pack to it.
Oh, nice. That is pretty.
Yeah, and if I hook up the battery pack to it.
Yeah, okay.
there's a whole community on the RPF that actually are dedicated to making the additional parts for those things. So like all the original Falcons, when they were actually shooting the scenes, loads of parts fell off them, because a lot of them are like scratch built kits. They were kit bashed with bits of models. So people have actually freeze framed in the 4K footage to find the tiny bits that have fallen off. They've redesigned them in 3D, and you can download them from Shapeways and print them to make the Agostini models even more accurate to screen.
Wow.
It's crazy. But there's a whole community on the RPF dedicated to finding bits that fell off the Falcon.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Yeah, the Star Wars like gets to you when you start. Like I have here on the table the collection of models I've been doing. Here
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so cool.
Here on top I have A2A2 and A2S2. And
That's beautiful.
K through. I'm going to get that one. It's a really good one.
It's like Christmas again. You see everybody else's Star Wars toys.
Yeah. So this one was one of the first models I did a quite like a bashing on. He's like in a battle scarred.
Nice. He was my favorite character in Rogue One by far. He was just for a robot. He had such character.
He was the best. I loved him.
Yeah, and all those models except this one is from Thingiverse, but all the other models are from Gambody.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. But you said you were designing the parts for the interior of the cockpit.
Yeah, I've put a link in the chat that takes you directly to the interior shots. I don't know if you want to bring them up, then you can see.
Yeah, I pasted them in the chat. So.
Okay, yeah. So you can so inside of that, it was a lot of it was actually after you'd printed it out and you'd smoothed it. Painting these things was pretty difficult because what we didn't realize when we first started is that all the textures and colors inside of the cockpit are all different depending on what region you're looking at. Yeah. So it wasn't until we actually had them in situ that you went, actually, these need to be browner, these need to be more black, these need to be more yellow, and there's such a diverse range of colors going on there. But for us, most of the time away from the Falcon was spent like sanding and smoothing. The weekends were like the fun times for us because it was the time we got to like stick it and see cool things happening.
Weekdays, just
weekdays
sanding.
was just depressive sanding. As anybody who's done 3D printing knows, it's just non-stop sanding.
Yeah, I was starting to do quite a bit of sanding more and more on the models I'm doing, and taking more time to prepare the models before I start painting, and it really shows off in the models when
it does. Yeah, I mean a lot
it's worth it.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the hours of sanding that we did, but it was definitely worth it to get that finish.
I mean a lot of what we do when it's not for one-offs, it's like casts and molds. So we don't really care what materials we use. We use like the same. I've used probably 50 kilometers of just grey PLA. Like, we're so boring with our color. We just use the same filament all the time. We sand it to perfection, then we mold it, and then after that we can paint it whatever color we like. So we've got some bits and pieces that we've been working on. We can show. I'm gonna pull out headphones and I'm gonna transition.
It's like for myself, I'm starting to use whatever filament color. I don't mind the color since I'm painting more and more. But I want to have high quality filament just to get like consistent texture on the paint.
You have to talk through it, Karen, because I can't.
All right, okay. You're a bit out of focus. Do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, go on.
There you go.
Right, it's not.
Yeah, it's a bit out of focus.
Oh, do it on this one. Do you want to switch back to the other camera? And then
I'll
just otherwise you're just a blur.
Technology is best.
There we go. So I'll let you talk about it. I'll hold you talk.
Yeah, so this was one of the first big props that I'd done with a local maker. The two of us spent all the time drawing this in SolidWorks, a bit in ZBrush and some in Blender, just basically whatever tool we could get to get it going. And then obviously we smoothed it and then made a mold. So this is a polyurethane master. And that really was what sort of put us on the map in terms of the maker community, in terms of people knowing about us when we put this out. So this was our first big baby, really. But yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah.
So Ben is asking, which grey filament are you using?
I use Colorfab PLA. We used to use Verbatim, and then they had a really, really bad run of all their filaments being really brittle. If you left them in I think you guys were talking about this actually last week. If you left it in the printer for any more than 10 minutes, they just shatter straight at the entry point on the printer. And I was tending to find some of my prints that were like 50, 60 hours long. If the feed rate wasn't fast enough, I was still getting those snaps. And it was just, I was in touch with the Verbatim guys and I said, look, I really love your filament, but you've changed the formula. This is ruining me. Are you going to fix this? And they went, no. So I switched filament makers, and now we pretty much use the 2.2 kilogram reels of Colorfab Eco, because we don't really need super nice end filament. As long as it sands well and we can fill it, that's all we need. So all the other prints you'll see this evening that we pull out are all going to be boring grey PLA. So I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah. If you find one that works, then it's good to stick with that. I've been using Filamentum for most of the models I'm doing. Yeah, quite happy with those.
Yeah, in my early days of 3D printing, I tried like anything I could. I tried rigid ink. I tried like Form Futura, which was really nice but really expensive per kilogram. Whereas the Colorfab PLA, I can buy 4 rolls in a big box for like €86, and they free ship it, and it's per kilogram the cheapest, but also the best quality I could find. So that's pretty much what I stick to now.
I always thought that they're expensive.
Okay. Yeah, but if you get the budget boxes and the Eco PLA, they're huge reels. They are 2.2 kilograms. I think it works out at less. I think it works out about 18 to 19 pounds per kilogram. So it's certainly not the absolute cheapest, but quality to cost ratio to me it is the best. And their tolerances are perfect. They're really, really good. If they say it's plus or minus 0.3, there's no oval shaping on the filament. They are spot on the nail. I normally take a measurement of the sample every 5 reels just to be. In my day job, I'm an engineer, so I get a little bit finicky about things like that. I know it doesn't necessarily always matter, but to me, if the filament's a good, consistent diameter, then your results will be pretty good.
Yeah, like my favorite filament in that regard is the Prusament, because that's really tight tolerances.
It looks really nice.
And when you print out some things, you see it's so consistent. You don't see like changes in the layers that you might see with all other filaments. So
no, I mean, I don't want to name and shame any filament makers because that's not fair, but there was a few that were trying to come out and they sent me some sample reels when they first came out. And I just said, this filament's oval. Like, you're not meeting your own tolerances on your website. They were saying, I'm not going to say who it is, but they basically have a big name. And they said, our tolerances are great. And I said, they're not. Here's all my measurements. And they said, yes, we'll fix it. And then they sent me like 3 samples and none of them were changed. And so I just went, yeah, okay. Yeah. I guess I won't be using that filament.
Yeah. But on the Star Wars things that you've been doing, do you model everything that you do, or do you get models from some repository and do as well? Or
for us, we pretty much design everything that we print, mainly because if it's either a prop that we're showcasing. As much as we've had fun printing, like Karen's only just getting into 3D printing now, so she's loving surfing Thingiverse to find things she can print to just get a handle on it. Because I've been 3D printing for a few more years, and Karen's just been assisting, and now Karen wants to get into the printing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it's always design. So my background, I'm an engineer in my day job. But when I was sort of 12 and 13, there used to be a chat program called IMVU, and you could have this little avatar and you could like have accessories. So because I knew a little bit about 3D, I used to design little guitars and the characters could have guitars, but it was like, there was no output for that. There was no 3D printers. So I sort of forgot about it. And then 3D printing came along. I went, oh, I can print them. And it was like a light bulb just went off in my head and suddenly the whole world changed. And then, yeah, the rest is quite literally history.
Yeah, so you've been doing it for quite some time, but like on social media, you're maybe just starting to use that platform to showcase. Yeah. Well,
Make Daily was actually is brand new, but JJ Industries, the other page I have in my set of links, is the one that I'm probably more formally known as just me, but that. It didn't seem fair when we were going to do video stuff that I'd just continue JJ Industries because I wanted it to be something collaborative together. And because Karen wants to start doing jewelry and like foundry casting and other things like that, we thought, let's start something new and keep it education based, and then we'll try and go down that route. We're still trying to learn the ropes and understand our own style on video. But it's good fun, and it's a hobby we can share together.
Yeah. Kat can probably give you some pointers on resin printing and jewelry making. She's been doing quite a lot of that.
Yeah, we've been watching. There's a guy in the UK, I think, called I can't remember his name, Veg Oil Guy, and he does investment casting from PLA. And I'm like, I want to do this so badly.
Yeah, could you share the link? I want to see, because I also want to try PLA. I've done some tests on resins, burning them out on platinum foil to see the burnout characteristics. But then my furnace, my burnout furnace electrified me, so I got shocks 2 times with 220 volts, and so I'm not going to touch that furnace anymore. No. And I'm saving some money for a new one. But I have in the cellar downstairs, I have a full setup for casting. So this one was one of the successful ones that I did. So that's my plan in the future, you know. And I also do I make lamp work beads. Oh wow! So I want to combine glass beads with printed stuff, you know, that I cast. So that's one of my main goals.
Yeah, I'll get the link
for the future.
He's really good because he's quite down to earth in how he does his tutorials, and he made his own furnace. He's so humble about it. He's like, yeah, well, you know, it sort of does the job for me. I don't know if it'll do for you. And it's funny because he's got a really strong Midlands England accent, and you don't hear many of those guys on the internet. So it's just lovely to listen to as well. He's just an interesting character. He's really cool.
So I might not be able to understand him, huh?
Well, can you understand us okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then you'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so do share the link.
So what other skills have you put into working with your Star Wars stuff? Leather working, casting, what have you? Vacuum
Yeah, so we obviously when we got into the Kylo Ren project, we got involved in leather work because we did all the hand stitching on the belt. I think there's like 2,500 stitch lines for the belting, which is just, if anyone's done like saddle stitching, it's just like your fingers want to fall off. But it's at the end, it's just like, it's so rewarding because you go, it's a piece of leather. It's just got some strips on, but it looks really cool, and I did it. It is. There's nothing more rewarding than looking at something that you spent so many hours on, and it doesn't look like it should have taken you more than 5 minutes.
I can imagine, because in here is some felt, and I had to run the needles through it too, and it was so hard to do. I imagine what it must be running the needle through leather. Oh my goodness!
It was.
We actually I ended up designing like a little leather thing for my palm with a little metal plate on it, so I could push the needles through the leather, and that made a big difference. But it took me about 600 stitches to make that realization before I'd like cut my hands a billion times. But yeah, that is, to me, that is part of the joy of making, like going through something painful, sometimes literally, before you find a solution that works. But yeah, leather work. We got into obviously
fabric.
I got into fabric making as well, because when Kylo Ren the costume first came out, nobody could find the fabric for this costume like at all. So I learned how to draft fabric, and I worked with the local mill in the UK to produce. I think we're at like 6,000 meters now of this fabric. So most accurate Kylo Rens in the world are using either my fabric or some other fabric they found locally. And it's a basket weave. And one of the videos we want to do in the future is to go back to the mill and talk through the process we went through to make that fabric. Because it was a journey, but it's an undocumented one, and it's certainly one we want to share.
Yeah, I sometimes Kat were talking about, she was doing the rap box video, but messed up with the recording, so she had to undo everything and put it together again to record it.
That drove me nuts. I thought no, because I was using the Logitech own software which I've never used, and the button for me looked as if it was recording, but it didn't. I did a test run, but accidentally I pushed the button maybe again, and I was quite sure I'm recording because this round button looked like the record button for me. And then when I was finished, I wanted to look at what I did, and I said, no video.
Oh no.
So I had to rest one day because I was so angry. But I disassembled everything, and I put lots of post-its on them, these little neon ones to mark where it belongs, because there's so many pieces. And then the next time. So
then you know for sure.
I think
the closest I've ever kicked. Before I used to do props, I used to film heavy metal bands. I used to go on the road and tour with heavy metal bands as a roadie doing video. And the one time I'd set up all my cameras to record the show, and then I walked away from the sound booth, and I must have pulled the sound cable out. So I recorded 50 minutes of complete silence.
Oh no!
and I had one day to get that one shoot, and I just had to hold my hands up and say, "Look, guys, I'm sorry. I have no sound."
You got some good footage.
Yeah, I got some good footage, but it was all silent.
It worked out all okay.
It was a very nice art house edit in the end with no sound.
I was at a structure fire. I'm a volunteer firefighter, but I was videotaping this one. And at one point, I double-clicked because I had great footage until it went to, there's the ground going by, swing up, see the fire, it turns off. Turns back on, goes back down, I walk somewhere else. Yeah, it happens.
Crazy.
Frustrating. At least it is. Coffee cups on the set.
But I mean, filming is... it's enjoying, but for I don't know if you guys find, for those who are doing like YouTube channels, like I want to be creative and I'm filming it, and then it's like now I have to edit it. Like we're still trying to get into the flow of trying to be creative and video productive at the same time. Like I kind of feel they're using the same energy, and it's hard.
Yeah, video editing.
I feel you.
after is terrible. You because you often record a lot of things and you end up with a very long video, and then you realize nobody is gonna go through all that. So you have to cut down, and it's I'm like a hobby photographer as well, and do landscape photos, and it's called Kill Your Babies. And when you take 150 photos on a photo trip or a one-day trip, and you want to showcase 2 photos, but there are like 50 excellent photos, so you have to be very critical of what you're gonna select. And you spend so much time doing a lot of work, but if you send out 50 images on your social site or whatever, nobody's gonna go through all that. You have to select the absolute best. The same goes with video production. You have to cut out what's most relevant, and it's like if you're doing a tutorial on how to do certain things, then you want to show all the steps, and that's like a content that you can have a longer video, but like showcase videos, they have to be very to the point. So it's a most boring part of
it is. I mean, I think the second video we did, I think we probably filmed about 4 hours worth of footage because we were like, we're gonna just stay here until we've done it right, and I'm not sure we did, but but we were like take 76. Like honestly, it was just ridiculous. Yeah. So I think in the future we're going to try and plan a little bit more, plan our shots, because when it came to the edit, I was dead. It was meant to be an 11-minute video, and I was like, "There's 4 hours of footage. How am I going to cut all of this?"
So we're still learning with that. It's still
we are. We're actually the reason our YouTube channel as well has been a bit quiet, where we've sort of hit a plateau in our current house. At the moment, our dining room is our workshop. And because molding and casting is a bit messy, and especially now we want to get into investment casting and metal casting, that's not really something you can do indoors. We really shouldn't be doing the resin casting indoors.
It's stinky, the burnout process. It stinks like hell, so you should have an extra room. Yeah. And please come back to me if you need some tips and tricks about casting, because I'm a dental technician, so I do it as a day job,
Awesome. That's great. Cool. Yeah, we're actually hoping to get a house with a double garage, so we're crossing our fingers that everything goes well. And then hopefully we'll have a workshop to do some stuff in. But we're actually, I've been reading just up to date on investment casting using the Formlabs printer, because we have one of those here, and we really want to try out that castable wax, because I think it looks like it would be good.
Yes. Yeah, that one will work for sure.
Yeah,
it should burn out nicely.
Nice. Yeah, we'll be in touch. You may regret this.
And you need a preheating furnace that goes up to about 900 degrees Celsius. A good one. You should really spend some money on that. Remember what I told you before? Getting electrified.
Yeah. You get what you pay for. Unfortunately, it's one of those things.
That's really true.
Yeah, that's cool. But I mean, we've had such a fantastic journey so far. Everybody's been like super positive to everything we've done. Our friends, our family, like everybody we've met. So we've, and obviously being invited to come join you guys is a real honor. It's great fun. So thank you for having us, by the way.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And like I was hooked when I saw the Millennium Falcon set that you built, and I have to know more about this.
It's crazy. Everybody who speaks to us just says like, where have you been for the past 2 years? Did you move out the area? Did you leave?
No, they thought that we actually moved.
We just worked on the Falcon.
Yeah, we didn't see anybody for about like 2 years. My sister-in-law, she was pregnant at the time as well, and I was like, you cannot have the baby at this time. It's like, please don't have the baby, because there were like it was like the grand unveiling of the Falcon, and my nephew was due soon, so I was like, no, we can't have the baby yet. Yeah. So
like Falcon was here, nephew was.
But no, it was a case of we didn't see anybody for about 2 years, just because we were working non-stop on that. Like we said before, it was like weekdays were like just sanding, weekends were actually placing the parts on the Falcon, and then we went through so many cans of dirty down trying to like get the weathering right on it, and was intense.
It was an experience.
Yes. But that was good fun.
Yeah, one thing with the thing that you use, that you were saying you were casting it out of some plastic. I don't know the name of it.
Resin, yeah.
Yeah, resin. Yeah, resin. And are you doing that to create more copies of the same thing, or what's the idea of doing it out of resin?
Yeah, Karen, can you just pass that
Sure.
that buckle down there? So basically, the idea behind doing a resin casting is either you want it to be durable, you want it to have different properties. I think there's a little rubber piece there by the PVA as well. At the very back, right at the back, that little bit, up, left. Yeah, sorry, we've got like a huge pile of bits on the floor. So basically the idea being that if we print off one resin master and we make a mold, like, if 20 or 30 people want one of these buckles, it's like, why would we spend the time sanding every single one? Because it's a painful, horrible task. Whereas when we make it like this and we make a mold, we can pour resin into a silicon mold, and then we can have a new one every 15 minutes, and the sand finish is perfect and it's ready to paint. So there's no finishing involved. So we typically make a master and then we mold it. In terms of for the Falcon, we've done it with a few of the parts also, because in case somebody damages parts on it, especially like parts like the flight yoke, because they're the parts that get the most wear. So we know kids are going to grab them, they're going to yank them, bits might break. As durable as we might make them, you have to make things people-proof, which is impossible. So instead of making them people-proof, we just make duplicates. So having molds helps us do things like that. But yeah, certainly for selling to people, it means we're not selling like half-finished products. Because to me, like a raw 3D print is not a finished product. If that's what somebody wants and they want to do the work involved in sanding and smoothing, then great. But I would hate to sell something to somebody where they just paint it up and go, hey, these guys sold this to me. How cool does it look? And I'm going, oh, look at all the 3D print lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a personal pride thing as well. I like things to I like them to look good.
Yeah. So you mentioned like the buckle you showed there. That's something that you're doing and selling to people that are in the Star Wars props world, or and is that like a business for you, or just occasional?
It is definitely a sideline for us, because obviously my full-time job as an engineer, like I don't get left with a lot of time. So because we've got the mold set up and these are fairly easy to run, Karen runs these through the day while I'm at work, and there's members of the 501st, members from the cosplaying community, which are the same amount of people who probably bought fabric have probably bought buckles, and ironically these parts keep us going. These are the things that allow us to buy like vacuum chambers and new printers, and to buy the Formlabs printer. So all of these are like a means to allow us to make more awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really basically every bit of money we make goes to buying more tools. So I'm not sure it's necessarily a sustainable business model, but it lets us buy cool things.
Yeah. It's good to have. Like for myself, I bought a Prusa printer and I did a model of a monument that's on a farm where I grew up. It's
Nice.
here. I modeled this up in Fusion 360 and did quite a number of prints, and I paid off my first printer in 4 months.
Oh, nice.
To sell this to relatives from the farm. So
that's brilliant. That's beautiful. That's a really nice model.
yeah, thank you. It's quite intricate, like on the pattern on it, with the letters and. So yeah, like it's like all my relatives that grew up, or like my great grandfather grew up there, and all his children and grandchildren and all that. A lot of people wanted a print, and some wanted them big and some small, and I had like 3 different prices. And it was good because after like a year or so, I decided to buy another one, and I had already paid the first one off. So
that's really nice.
It's good for the home accounting to have your hobbies pay.
Hobbies pay for themselves. Yeah, it certainly helps justify them.
Yeah.
I've got a general question for all you guys. Like, what was your first printers into what got you not necessarily into 3D printing, but what was your first 3D printer, and like why did you pick it? Because I guess ours was a chance thing. Like where I work, they had a 3D printer, and nobody could get it assembled. I think it was a rep wrap Omrod, like one of the RS ones in the UK, and nobody could get it to work. So they sent, you look vaguely interested in this, take this home. So I stripped it down and built it back up, and it was the worst little printer. Like it just broke every time you printed. But I learned a lot about printers from that terrible printer. And like, what about you guys? What was your first like printers? Did you go straight to a pro one, or do you start with like a terrible printer as well?
For me, it was a terrible printer as well.
It seems to be like a shared thing.
Yeah, it is. It was a gift from my husband. I got an ANET A8, and this damn thing was broken. Basically, well, everything was bent. I had to exchange almost everything. But I'm not sorry about that, because I learned very, very much about 3D printing just by repairing this damn thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way.
Yeah,
it's just sort of definitely a way to learn about things if you've got to repair them.
So. My first 3D printer, that was the Wanhao i3 duplicate, version 1. Version 1.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So my first 3D printer was a Delta printer, a kit from China. And I really wanted to give to start with the most complicated one, so I assembled it.
Those printers look crazy.
Yeah, and it has a semi-automatic bed leveling, so you have to adapt the G code, So every time I have to calculate when I want to do the bed leveling, but luckily you don't have to do it that often, and it prints like a charm. So I'm really happy with that. And then I also assembled a Block 0, which is a tiny Cartesian printer. And why did I assemble it? Because I was waiting for my resin printer that I crowdfunded on Kickstarter. And it took, as everybody knows, those things always take very long until they get delivered. So I just started off with the FDM printing in the meantime.
I've been burnt by so many kicks. Like I've funded so many Kickstarter tech projects and never got anything. I think
really?
I think you've got I think you've bought.
I've got a light bulb. Like
I think you've got a couple of things.
Yeah, I think I have got like a light bulb and a smart router. Like the smart light bulb is the best thing I ever got. And
really?
I funded like they did like the world's thinnest watch. So I backed that. Brilliant. That failed. Yeah. And then I backed like some other guys doing some smart filament thing, and that cancelled before the end. And I just went, you know what it is? I give up. I'm not giving this any more money because I'm not getting anything back out of it. So I'm a little bit raw about Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Well, we got into it. My daughter wanted to do more with cosplay.
Oh, nice.
So we did a whole bunch of research and ended up with an original Prusa. And she wouldn't let me use it, so I bought my own. And I now have 2 original Prusas and a Moye for the resin printing. But yeah, assembling the kits, it's the way to go because you learn how the things work.
Yeah.
And actually, we assembled hers live, and Sean from Prusa Research tuned in, and every once in a while we get a message, "No, you're doing that one wrong. Just try do it this way," and it was fantastic.
Maybe that's the trick we need to do, like, because Karen's just trying to get herself into 3D printing now, but I've maybe like gone ahead with 3D printing and she's just sort of left me to it, and now she wants to do it, and I'm like, maybe we need to buy you a terrible printer and make you go through all the horrible stuff that everybody else has.
Yeah, Karen, you should definitely buy a kit. Really, buy a kit. And you might have a stage where you want to throw the damn thing out of the window, but really, if you get yourself through it, you will know if something goes wrong during the printing process. If the damn thing doesn't want to work, you know how to fix it, and that's what it's all about. That's so cool, and you feel like a queen, you know.
Love it.
Well, so I definitely think that's what we need to do. Yeah,
doing live builds. As I said, they're great because you get some very helpful input from someone who's gone ahead before you. So it helps a lot.
Yeah, I don't even think I could take part. I think I'd have to stay out the room because I I have a terrible habit of just being like, it's okay, I'll do it, don't worry, and taking over. And I have to not, because it's, yeah, I struggle with that because I just want to help, but I know it's not really helping.
Okay, you're locked out of the printer room for the day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go out to the pub or anywhere else that isn't in the house. Why am I saying go? I never go to a pub. I'm going to go out and play Pokemon. Who am I kidding? But yeah, I'll leave you alone. I'll put YouTube on live, and I'll just stream you locked in the living room building a printer.
Yes.
Yeah, we could do like a ladies live hangout, and then if you run into problems, then yeah, maybe I don't know.
Do it.
I'll be like, help! I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
We can fix that. No problem.
I just come back and there's just plastic filament everywhere. But that's how you know you're doing it right.
Yeah.
What about you, Martin? What was your first? Is it Martin or Marteinn? Sorry,
Yeah, Marteinn or Marteinn. Yeah, Marteinn. Yeah.
Okay. What was your first printer?
That was a Prusa MK2.S, 2S. That was a kit as well, and I did quite a lot of research, and I wanted to do a kit right from the get-go, just to get to know everything. My background is in electronic engineering, and so I'm very mechanically inclined. So putting together a printer and fixing it, was definitely something I wanted to do right from the get-go, and I think it was a very good idea because now if I have any problems, I just take everything apart and fix them. And I've been doing designs on my CR10 upgrades and quite a lot of like mechanical parts and design in Fusion 360 for my printers, and understanding how they're put together and how they work is a very good thing.
Nice. It seems like a lot more of the economical based printers are becoming a lot more reliable than what they used to be. Like I looked at the CR10s when I first saw them come out, and I went, "Oh, that I sense a lot of problems here." But everybody seems to be really positive about them. How are you finding reliability on those things?
Yeah, on my CR10, it's like 1 year ago I got it, and it was total crap. It was everything was so many things wrong with it, and I had like the worst experience. I know a lot of people have good experience with CR10s, but there were so many issues and a lot of things, and I've done quite a number of upgrades and designing better parts and doing videos and that. Like I have a whole series on my channel with CR10 upgrades.
Oh, nice.
And whatever I design for it, I share on Thingiverse as well. So people have been using my upgrades to do better on their own printers. That's quite good feeling when you have you spend so many hours of designing and test printing, and especially like on a CR10, I was designing the part cooling fan duct and getting airflow simulation in your mind into a physical object is very trial and error focused, because I don't have an airflow simulation software to see it visually. I have to print out the thing, test it.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, and you probably know as you're an engineer. So but it was good fun. And when I did the video on my part cooling design, I had probably 20 designs on the table. That was my iteration on testing things and where to place the fan and orientation of the duct. So I have good fun doing the designs and creating a material for my YouTube channel, and then also upgrading my printer in the same process. So
nice. That's like really cool. Yeah,
combination of things.
in terms of like iteration, just generally as a point on design, I think it really necessarily doesn't matter how you go about, as long as you iterate fast enough. It doesn't matter like how bad the thing is, as long as you can replace it quick enough with something better. And I think iterative design, it definitely lends itself to 3D printing, because you can have something so quick in your hands and just go, no, this is junk, and chuck it out, and that's fine. Like I think a lot of people want to like stop themselves from designing anything in 3D because they think I can't make it immediately. I know you were like put off for a long time because you just went, there's no way I can do these organic surfaces or all these things that you want to do. But I think you're slowly learning that it's fine. You just have to make things as best as you can, and just keep making them incrementally better.
Yeah.
And certainly for me, like making things terribly first is pretty much my like track record. The first one is terrible, then it gets better, then it maybe gets a bit better. But I'm never particularly satisfied with my designs ever. It's never perfect.
Well, this project I've been working on for ages, it seems. Iterations, I got bits and pieces of this mount all over the place as I slowly work on the design. It's a camera mount to go on a mic stand. I used to be a radio host.
Oh, nice.
Well, much to my surprise, I never expected to host a radio show. But I ended up with a bunch of equipment here, and so I have mic stands. So I want to mount my cameras on the mic stands so I can move them around the room.
Oh, nice. That's really cool.
As I said, iterations. You do it, and if the print doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I got
back to the drawing board
during the show, and it failed. And I'm working on fixing that right now. So yeah, you just do it over and over, and if you don't know what you're doing, you'll learn.
If at first you don't succeed, try and try.
Yeah.
Slogan for my show: I screw up so you don't have to.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's good.
Yeah, it's good fun to do like mechanical, practical parts. Just a simple part. You can see here the orange part. This is just a lamp. It's not like a mic stand, but it's just a lamp that I took off the light bulb.
Oh, yeah.
Then I had the Logitech camera, and I had the small tripod with a ball head. You can see the ball right in here where the cable is. And then I need this fitting to be tight enough around the ball head and fit those parts. And I probably went through maybe 5 or 6 iterations of getting everything lined up, and especially with the tolerances of the ball. And if you you don't have to design a whole spaceship to say, okay, I've done something, done some design. It's just a simple, small pieces. And when you start finding projects around the house that you need fixing, and I often look on Thingiverse for a part, but I see it's not exactly what I want, so I have that as a reference, and then I make it from scratch in Fusion 360. So
yeah, I think that's definitely the power of having things like Thingiverse, that you can have something as a reference. I know I think about as practical as we've got with the house, instead of it being galaxies far, far away, like we basically printed, I think it was like drain pipe clips. It's the most boring thing, because we were selling our house and there was some weird design of pipe clip that we just couldn't find in the shop. So we're like, we'll just design it and print it, and it's still outside. It's been there for like 8-9 months. It's still good. Yeah. But I guess we haven't really scratched the surface on practical prints. For us, it's like, it's all fantasy weirdo stuff.
Yeah, it's all being
that people can wear as a costume. So I guess we probably will do more functional stuff as we go. About as functional as we get is like things to help us mold. Like if you pass me that silicon mold. So like obviously the molding process, there's always things that we look at where we sort of go, can we make this more convenient for us? And obviously silicon is like the most expensive thing in props for us.
Could you share the source, where you get your silicon from and the resins?
Yes.
Because, and as a dental technician, I also do that kind of stuff at work, but there, of course, I use dental stuff. So I would like to know where you get from other stores, not dental.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've actually...
that would be cool.
Yeah, I've started putting together a sheet of suppliers in the UK and Europe, so I know what is the cheapest of each type, because you get different...
Yeah.
Like, we spent a lot of time looking at different shore hardnesses and materials, because you get, like, rubbers and plastics. But we this was probably one of our first things we used functional, I guess, for 3D printing, was to start making mold walls. So this way that when we put the silicon on the mold, you're not wasting nearly as much silicon. And also we can put we've engraved details onto the side. I don't know if you can see that on the 3D print, but basically we can now work out how much resin we need. So when we pull this out the cupboard, we know it needs 110 mil, and we haven't got to just waste resin to try and remember again. because we're terrible at recording things. So it's helpful for us in that respect. And if you pass one of the other ones, we've started making a lot more complicated mold boxes as well. You just pass the whole thing, Karen, all 3 bits. So the latest project we're working on isn't Star Wars related at all. We're busy working on Captain Marvel. So we're doing. So this is one of the shoe pieces, one of the boot covers. So this needs to be molded inside and out because it needs to have a continuous thickness. So with that, we've designed a book for the base. The master will sit on there, and then this piece will go on. So then inside there's a continuous thickness, and it means that the thickness for the silicon is exactly about 3/4 of an inch, which is good for silicon, and it means we use the minimum amount of silicon, and it keeps things really efficient.
Did you ever cut silicon in pieces and reuse it?
Yes, yeah, I recycle silicon a lot, all the time. We probably won't with this because it'll be too
that
clean.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and do you mix the silicon with a vacuum mixing machine? That I would also recommend to have, because that
we've got a vacuum chamber and we've got a pressure pot. So when we're doing any castings that are less than anything less than 4 or 5 millimeters, we put them in the pressure pot, and it does the best. But yeah, 3D printing, really, we're just starting to make it functional. And when we get to the new house, hopefully we've got a load of DIY projects that we can do and make things more functional. But yeah.
I want to have a question there. You said you have a pressure pot and a vacuum chamber. What's the use case for either one?
Okay. So a vacuum chamber. So silicon is if you think of I can't even think of something very viscous. It's like a jam. So it's really thick and it doesn't flow like water. So when you mix it up, you're introducing a lot of air bubbles.
Yep.
So you put the silicon in the vacuum chamber, and what that does is it creates a negative pressure on the liquid that forces the air bubbles to expand. And when they're a larger volume, they rise out of the silicon, so you can have bubble-free silicon. So when you pour that onto your master model, you don't have air trapped in places. And then the pressure pot does the inverse of that. So once we've got a nice bubble-free mold, when we're pouring resin into that mold, you can put that in the pressure pot, and what that does is any tiny bubbles that are there get crushed to absolutely microscopic sizes. So instead of having a big bubble on a detail here, they'll get crushed into such a tiny detail that it'll not be seen. And the idea being that once it's out the mold, whatever pressure is in that ball will just naturally outgas, and you'll be left with a bubble-free finish. So it means that you don't have resin castings that have got bubbles or pit marks or things, and they're exactly what you intended them to be. And we care about making things as perfectly as possible. So having that kind of equipment is sort of paramount for us, really.
You end up getting less waste as well.
Yeah, you waste less resin as well. Because you don't need to.
Yeah, the risk of having a result that didn't work can be minimized.
Yeah. And I mean, we obviously, I've obviously got a full daytime job, and Karen is at home working on some of these bits for me. But I honestly take these pieces of equipment sometimes as time saving, because every time we waste a prop, that's 45 minutes or an hour. And if I've only got 3 hours a night to do some working on casting, is it really worth it? I'd rather just have the equipment and get the piece right first time.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about the pressure pot was for the resin curing process. I have seen some people using the vacuum chamber with silicone, but that it got just confused. Why do you have a pressure chamber as well?
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can actually, and I have seen people do this when they're making their silicon molds. They'll vacuum the silicon, then they'll put the whole thing in the pressure pot to crush any remaining bubbles. That's double, and I don't think it's necessary really, but you can do it. And it makes for very, very good silicon parts and good resin parts. So that's the idea behind it. It's just all part of the process chain of making good quality pieces.
Yeah. When we get the resin parts out of the molds, that's don't have to do any finishing on that, or is it just the seam lines that you have to take care of? Or
mainly seam lines. Pretty much seam line cleanup is about all we have to do on the 2-part molds like that.
Well, we're busy working on the chest piece from Captain Marvel, and it's all the seam lines, but
Yeah, so if you do you want to pass those
Yeah.
pieces over?
You're
Sorry,
just like me to
I am. Yeah, sorry. On my side of the couch, I've got like a huge pile of like cables and lights, and Karen's got the easy access side. So she's doing all the legwork tonight. So we've got this is the Captain Marvel chest plate we'd worked on. So this is actually a polyurethane cast. So the first piece was just PLA. And then we've sanded it, smoothed it, and we made a really quick waste mold. So we made a really cheap mold, which is basically what is the cheapest way we can get this into polyurethane, because polyurethane is really easy to sand compared to resin. So this was our like super cheap, do it in a weekend mold. So I'll hand you that. So that was effectively what the 3D print looked like. That was about as much sanding as we did. We maybe did about an hour of sanding at the most, and it's still very rough. And then to take that to the final stage, we made this really cheap silicon jacket mold and plaster, and then we cast this final piece. And this is what we've been cleaning, but you can see a big difference between. Well, I hope you can. Otherwise, I've wasted a lot of time. But yeah, there's a big difference, and so this is what we spend our time doing, cleaning this up. Then this will get a final, what we'll call like a production mold. So this will be the one that we'll spend like a good week making a good quality mold for, and that'll do like that'll do for maybe 50 to 80 chest plates, and that'll all be in polyurethane rubber. So. Yeah, we've got some work ahead on that yet, but we're getting there.
But you know, that means that you have to have a pressure pot that is as big as the piece that you want to put it in, huh?
Yes and no, because I think the resin we're going to use is that there's two sides to pressure potting. So you can either have a really, really fast resin that cures within 15 minutes, which are really, really prone to bubbles because they cure so quick. Or you can use really, really slow slow resins. And the benefit of them is you've got a lot more time for the bubbles to rise out of the mold. So for this piece, because it's going to be rubber, we're going to use a really, really slow resin so that we don't have to put it in a pressure pot, because I can't afford a pressure pot that would fit that thing.
Do you also have a vibrator?
Yes.
Okay, because the vibrator also helps a lot.
Yeah.
I have, this is like the full setup that you would have in a dental lab as well. So this is why we're talking tech stuff now, and yes. I would know what could come up next, So this was the vibrator.
I tell you what we do use. We don't actually have like a vibration plate like they have for the dental resins, but what we use is those. I don't know if you've seen the oscillating saws. So we actually use that, and we basically clamp it to the piece and just turn it on, and it does a great job. Like I've seen people use sanders, and they're not as good because they're like oscillating as just a circle. You can actually clamp the plates from the oscillating saws directly to your piece, and you get a really good transfer of vibration into your part.
Okay.
So if you ever need to try that, they're worth their weight in gold, and they're so cheap to have at home as well. But yeah, they're good fun.
Yeah. So now you're working on Marvel characters, and you've done all the Star Wars stuff that you're doing. Like, but do you have like a plan ahead for a long time? Okay, now I'm working for the next 5 months on this project, or does it come about just whatever comes in your mind?
I mean, the Captain Marvel one sort of came. We've got a local friend who wanted to do the costume, and we said, yeah, we'll do the hard parts for it. It'll be no problem. So we had like this little graphic of Captain Marvel, and we overlaid in red. We went, well, there's just a little bit on the arm, and there's a bit here, and just the star. And then I went, oh no, it's the whole chest, and it's the knees, and it's the belt, and it's the legs. And before we knew it, we had like
a lot of hard parts.
20, 30 parts to do. But thankfully, I had a really quiet Christmas, so I probably spent about 150 hours over Christmas modeling it all up. So all my modeling was done over Christmas holidays. So in between, like stuffing my face with Christmas turkey and pork, I was basically sat in Fusion, like long days, just getting it all mashed out. And obviously now we're printing and cleaning it up. But I guess it's whatever I look at that would take my passion to do. But I kind of want to go along the attitude of I either want to do it the best possible, better than anybody's tried to do it before, or I just don't want to do it. I find it more enjoyable if I can really throw myself into a project.
Yeah, it's like now with my Star Wars models, because I have no like painting background, and I was doing the landscapes for quite a number of time, and people were saying I had good painting skills, and I decided to try them out on the models, and like this Yoda here, it's coming
beautiful.
out pretty good, and I've been trying to simulate like shading and weathering on the fabric, and there's like a vegetation on the rock, and you can spend so much time like working on layer after layer after layer after layer, and it's difficult to stop because you can always do some more intricate.
You can.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize what a huge job like finishing these things is. Like, it's not just enough to print them and even paint them. Basically, like those weathering layers in the dirt and the real life stuff just takes them to that next
level.
step.
Yeah.
And what I like to do, because I do videos on the things I do, and like with C-3PO here, he has a red arm, and
yeah, I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, he had in the last Jedi, he appeared with a red arm, and there was no backstory in the movie.
Yeah,
I was trying to find out why does he have a red arm, and I found out there was a cartoon, like a comic with a background story. He had some secret mission and got into some heavy action, and one of his friends got killed, and he lost his arm, and he salvaged the arm from his friend, and so on the video I told that story on how that came about, and with all the models I'm doing, I'm trying to have some story on what has been happening, why they look like they do, and when you do like like the battle damage I did on this one, because in the movies he's not like all banged up all the time, but I had to create some more
damage.
More damage to it, and then I had to create a story about it. So
yeah, I mean, if any of you guys are doing weathering things like that, the best resource for us has been the RPF. Like the RPF has, I've been a big fan of the replica prop forum for years, but some of the stuff they have on there, those guys are just like next level.
Yeah.
Like, I would happily give my right arm to be nearly as skilled as half of those guys. Some of them they do so there's an entire 200 or 300 page thread just on like how to paint and do Han Solo's blaster. Like, they're finding all the original parts and all the bits, and they're just like, I love those guys.
Yeah, I've been watching on Twitch some guys doing weathering on painting, and I think I'm getting better at it, but compared to those guys, I absolutely suck.
Well, I think no one's ever really happy with what they do. No. And well, if you are, then you're going to plateau. So I kind of take it as a good thing that we're never going to be happy. It's a good and a bad thing that I will never be happy with our work.
Yeah, but then I show this off to people, and they're like, they're amazed how I do this, and with the painting of the landscapes, and I just started to play around, and it's something that seemed to make people happy to get those landscapes, and I've been giving them out to people, and it's good fun.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think we looked at it because there's a board game called Settlers of Catan. I don't know if you guys know it. We've got some friends that we play Settlers of Catan with, and like they're like, you need to 3D print the tiles, and we're like, yes, we'll do it at some point soon.
We did do it.
We did make a set, but we didn't paint them.
No, we didn't paint them. I didn't get that far.
They're still in a box somewhere.
Yes.
But we'll get around to it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to print one day, because it's my favorite board game.
Such a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get around to actually finishing that.
This is Karen the Sheep Baron. She hoards all sheep in Catan. That's like her favorite thing to do.
They end up paying off.
Yeah. I want to show you one model. It's like a blasphemy on a Star Wars themed show.
I mean, we've already gone to Marvel. Is it going to be Star Trek? It's going to be Star Trek. Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So I did this just this week. I've been like spending 3 or 4 hours for quite a number of days each night doing sanding and painting and doing weathering, and it's like a lot of work into a model. And I'm doing this for a friend, so like a commission.
Nice.
I was showing him my Star Trek, the Star Wars models, and he's a Star Trek fan, so he asked if I could do in the same level of finishing for him. So I did one.
Maybe we're just easily pleased because like anything with star in is good with me, like Star Trek, Stargate, Star Wars, like anything. It's got the word star in, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel has a star, so
Yeah, Captain Marvel has a star, so sure, let's go with that.
Hey, Marteinn.
Talking about you.
Yeah, you made the Starship Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? I started yesterday printing one of the parts for the phaser rifle.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, cool.
Oh, nice.
This is one of the top parts right here. Got that done yesterday. That was a 17-hour print.
Oof.
And I wanted to start printing some more parts today, but my Honow D9 that I have, for some stupid reason, magnetic bed, it doesn't want to accept any filament right now.
It's not feeling up to it today. It's having a break.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that original series Blast Phaser?
The Blaster Phaser, it is a 1-to-1 that I'm going to have to print.
Oh no, I mean, which is it? Like the original series, or is it like Next Generation?
It's from what's the name of the film again? Where they travel back in time?
So many.
With the Borg.
Oh,
With the Borg, Star Trek 8.
Yeah, Star Trek 8. That's where they had the Phase 3.
oh my lord!
Phaser rifle.
Phoenix.
I'm clearly not as big a fan of Star Trek. I love Star Trek, but I could not name that. That's next level. I could probably do that with Star Wars, but not Star Trek.
Yeah, it's good fun to like geek out or those things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, all we do when we get together with our friends, it's like I'm so happy that being a geek is publicly acceptable now.
Yeah.
Because all those years as a kid sat in like in a bloody indoor room, like just not going outside with the regular lot, looking at models. Like, I'm happy it's mainstream now.
Here's a model that you got to take a look at.
Oh, let's see.
That
I'm never sure where to look, whether I'm meant to be looking in the Hangouts or the live stream.
this is the Star Citizen Hornet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I kickstarted that. It still isn't out yet, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I got this model from Game Body.
Oh wow.
A month later, it was taken down.
Oh. was it from the in-game assets?
I think the person that posted it.
Okay.
You know where he got the model from.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What do you guys feel about that kind of thing? Because certainly in the prop groups that I run in, there's really like there's almost a division in the community about whether it's acceptable to take in-game assets and print them, or whether it's not. Like I kind of feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I'm still forming an opinion on it, but I'm not sure it's fully.
I would say if you import all the files, you do all the work, and you make one exemplar for yourself, there should not be anything against that.
Yeah, I think people have to draw the line. If people are exporting the model from a game and then doing a commercial product out of it, selling the model online or selling the prints. But if you buy the game, you open up the assets and print out a prop from the game. I can't see that it's not like a commercial intent. You're not making money out of it by exporting it to a third party. If you're doing that, in my book, that would be okay. But if you start to sell those models or sell those prints, then you're in gray area, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with these kind of discussions all the time in the Star Wars community because people will take things like helmets. Like Battlefront is such a high definition game now that you can take high quality models from those games and share them online. But because they're so popular, there will always be prop makers who will take those models and they'll mold them like we're doing. But to me, I'd be uncomfortable doing that because I'm effectively taking another artist's work who didn't consent to it being molded and made into a commercial thing. Like Disney are already so kind to all of us members of the community because they don't come and attack us with like takedown notices and cease and desist. Like we do this because we've got a passion for the franchises. But yeah, I think it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line.
Yeah. There's a difference between a fan art and a commercially. Like if you take out the model and sell it on an Etsy store, then you're making money out of somebody else's intellectual property. So
yeah. I think it's definitely a grassroots issue in the community. I think I'm not even sure publishers and IP owners really know necessarily what to do with it yet. I hopefully there's going to be some precedent for what is going to happen, and it'll be positive for the community.
Yeah, TK saying in the chat here, some games like Borderlands are very happy with the 3D models getting printed. So and games should bring out the models for 3D models. I think like if you form a community about models from a game, you get awareness of the game, and it's a publicity for that game.
Yeah.
People will see, okay, I can play this game with a Star Wars character that's really detailed, and that got me interested in buying the Battlefield, or whatever name of that game, and then I can play around with the model on my 3D printer and have it as a model without having to hack into the asset files within the game, because that's maybe not something that everybody has knowledge on how to do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess probably the difference is maybe the difference between something like Star Wars that has like a domain franchise where it's like it's film, it's going to be TV, it's games, it's merchandising. Whereas I guess something like Borderlands and maybe Dying Light and other things like that, I guess for them it's maybe an advertising method. So I suspect that's probably where some of the duality of it all comes from, because there's a balance between wanting to publicize and also protecting your IP in terms of a big company. So because it'll get worked out.
The problem that I have with that Star Citizen Hornet is it came out in Game Body at the same time when it was in the game only as a review unit. You could not officially buy it. It was only there for the beta testers.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't something that was designed to be an end game product.
It is in the end game now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you have to pay something like $100 before you can get that model.
Oh, okay.
In the game. Yeah, but this came out at that time when it was still in the beta area. So this is not only a gray, this is a really dark gray.
dark gray area. I mean, maybe from the Star Citizen's point of view, they might want to. Maybe they want to start monetizing it at some point. Maybe they'll pay let you pay a couple of dollars to download the STL. Who knows?
Yeah, and I'm sure if they would do that, you could buy models like on models I'm doing. I pay quite a lot of money for those models, and I don't mind, because like if I were having a golf as a hobby, I would spend money on golf stuff.
Yeah,
and I don't mind spending money on filaments and projects that I'm doing in regard of my hobby. If I could buy the authentic model from the game designers, I would go that route instead of buying fan art with not exact details and that's because you want to have it as authentic as you possibly can. So, so it could be a revenue stream as well.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see that more and more going forward. I don't think these companies really know how to deal with the 3D printing problem at the moment. It's complicated because I guess legal teams are going to want to protect it for one thing, but then the creative marketing sides are going to be like, well, this can help us a lot. So I don't know how it's going to go.
Well, there's a recent issue on Thingiverse where I don't know the game, but it's based on tanks. And shortly after it came out, any tank, regardless of who designed it, what kind of tank it was removed from Thingiverse. And so it's going, well, okay, these people didn't have the rights to all tanks. They didn't come from their game, but they forced the removal of all models of any tank. So
is that the equivalent of like people abusing the YouTube DCMA thing and taking down videos that they don't really have a right doing? I suspect we're going to have a little bit of an overstep as well as trying to work out how it goes.
Yeah, TK wrote in the chat that was World of Tanks, and they took some of it and they took his tanks off too.
That sucks.
Yeah. Thingiverse just saw this takedown notice and saw the word tanks, searched for tanks, and removed all tanks from Thingiverse. It was like totally uncalled for from Thingiverse part to just they didn't like review what was happening. It just like
they didn't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should just make like a text extrusion just saying thanks very much and just upload it to Thingiverse. See if it gets removed.
They backed down and the tanks have been replaced. But,
okay.
But still, it's an issue that the world has to figure out here.
Yeah, because World of Tanks, those guys got a lot of flack because of this request, and people were quite upset with that company doing that. So they're trying to redeem themselves.
Yeah. I mean, if they could clearly show that someone was ripping the game models from their game and posting, then fair enough. If that's their prerogative, if that's how they want to do it, great. But to just go carte blanche and say, remove all tanks, the whole world of tanks is our world of tanks. They're all our tanks.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure every military in the world might have something to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because like TK, he's making models on his own, and they can be exact replicas of some physical tank in World War II or something that is as well just as good as the model from World of Tanks that was put online. So and people, they have to prove that this is a IP from the game because this is the exact model extracted from the game, but they can't just go out and say it's like getting they just went totally overboard.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I still had some of my 3D models from when I first started modeling when I was like 12 and 13, because I think the first thing I probably modeled was a tank. One of the technicians, his brother was in the army. He had there was a Tanks Weekly book, and he gave me like 40 of these magazines, all with pictures of tigers and panzers, and it was a terrible model. But I wish I had it still because I only have a picture of it in my mind, and it was terrible.
That gave me a good idea, because when I was a teenager, I was playing around with 3D Studio and then later 3D Studio Max.
Yeah,
I was 15, 16 years old, and I have all those files somewhere stored away.
I had mine still.
I have to go have a look and find those models and 3D print them, because I was modeling all kind of stuff back in the day, just having fun. And at one time when I was at school, I modeled every furniture in the room I was living in, all the desks and lamps and everything. And so I have quite a lot of models in 3D Studio form. I have to get those models somehow.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, I mean, I think I used to work in a guitar shop when I was younger. I used to do like electronic repairs on amps. So I used to take a guitar home like every Thursday when I'd finish my half summer job, and then I'd model them in Blender, then come back to work and put them back on the shelf, and I'd take another guitar and I'd come home and and model it. It was good fun. That was probably what like got me really into 3D modeling. It was really enjoyable. It was good fun.
Yeah.
What about you guys? How many of you guys actually design, and how many of you guys just like purely print? Is it?
Yeah, I'm still stuck in easy stuff. I'm at work. I'm I'm using the dental program called 3Shape, but at home I haven't gone very far.
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
Yeah. Most of the stuff I do, I design. Occasionally, I find things on something like Thingiverse going, hey, I can use that. So,
yeah, Ryan Reen. There's been a few times when I've modeled something up, and then someone sent me a message going, "You do know there's a really great model for that already right here." I'm like, oh.
The learning curve is before you design something, go see if somebody's already done all the work for you.
I'm terrible for doing that. I tend to dive in first because I get really excited and I'm like, draw. Oh, someone's already done it. No,
Yeah.
never mind.
Well, there's Shane. There's your first tip right there is to see what else other people have done. But it depends what you're doing props for, because something like the 501st, it has to be exact.
Yeah, it does.
So,
Yeah.
once you've moved beyond that, it all depends, how you're going to use it, how's it going to be used. Peter, my daughter's significant other, if he designed something, like the last thing he did that I saw was a frying pan, because a Netflix series he was working on, a lady had to beat off a zombie with a cast iron frying pan. So
Love it.
And she got to take him on with that.
Nice.
But yeah, what's the prop going to be for? How often you're going to use it? Behind me, you can see some chainmail here.
Is that 3D printed chainmail?
No, that's the real stuff.
I was like,
Oh,
Jesus
okay.
Christ, how did you print that? My lord. Okay.
I have 3D printed chainmail, but this helmet was used when I used to fight. So,
wow.
Into this, I was wearing it 3 times a week. So you have to build it, for that.
Nice.
I noticed the 501st stuff, they use that stuff a lot. So that directly, impinges on how often or how they build it, because it has to last.
Yeah.
But then, if you're doing something to go to a convention, you're going to use it once.
Yeah. I think there's a lot when we get
cheats.
Yeah, well, there's people like there's a lot of people in the costume community who build with like foam, like EVA foam, and some people do some beautiful EVA foam things, but they really don't last for the most part. It's getting better now. Like the finishing methods for EVA foam is certainly night and day from what it was.
Yeah.
But I think 3D printing has came along because, especially in those costume communities, because now you can print something and you can make it look really sharp and really clean and quite durable in comparison to what you can with a piece of foam. So I'm certainly starting to see a lot of transition in the cosplay community of people printing things now instead of just doing foam.
The thing is, you can make it fit for you as well, because we made a Captain Phasma for myself.
Yeah.
So it was a case of some of the parts that we got were made out of Warbler, and like some of the feet bits were like ridiculously huge.
Yeah.
So we had to like 3D print those to like fit, and like the leg pieces and shin pieces.
Yeah, that was a Frankenstein kit. That
was really
it was
because when we got the kit, it was designed
for like a giant 8'10" man.
Yeah,
like, the parts were just massive.
It would easily have fitted somebody that was like 7'4" or something like that. They were huge, so we had to like sort of cut a lot of it down and 3D print some stuff. So,
but there's a whole community on Facebook for guys who do like the Death Troopers and Shore Troopers, the ones that were in Rogue One, and those guys are like fully head to toe 3D printing their entire gear, and they have such high standards. Like they will shoot someone down like to the bone if there are any print lines or striations showing. They're like, nope, you need to sand it and start again. They're brutal, but it's great because it's really, to me, it's raising the level that that people are seeing 3D prints as. They're not just seeing them as these things that are just a bunch of lines. They're really high quality pieces that look like production pieces. It's the whole face of the community is changing. It's great.
Yeah.
I can't remember who did it, but I think a fellow in London had the BFG from Doom.
Oh yes. Was that Kirby Downey? Because he's actually the guy who invited me into this chat. I think it may well have been him.
Okay. One of his lessons from that, he doesn't take it to shows anymore because
people break it.
Yeah, it's breaking. So, that's part of the issue is, A, can you make it look good, but B, can you actually show it to anybody and can it be handled?
Yeah. I think people as well in the community are starting to learn more about how you make the prints as well. Like people are learning you can't just have like a single wall with like 1% infill. Like they're starting to learn you got to have a few walls, and it's great because like the BB-8 community, a lot of those guys are printing their BB-8s in their entirety, and the community is really leveling up. It's great to see the base level of knowledge for 3D print just slowly rising. Excuse me, something just collapsed in the background. I don't know what it was.
Probably one of the cats.
There's one question here in the chat from Shane from Prusa. If for people that want to start creating props, can you recommend the steps, tricks, and hints for a new person starting off? So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you can find a prop that is like a 3D design that is already existing, then obviously that is definitely the easiest step because you're taking a file that's already known, it's already made, and then it's really the thing. Especially for 3D printing, I would spend as much time as possible learning about all the materials for like sanding and smoothing and printing. So we've actually brought all the tools with us ready for the stream. So if you want to pass them up.
What would you like?
Give us the sandpaper. That's probably the first one. So we like for our 3D prints, our rundown is typically we'll start with a 120 grit, and then we
have a file.
Yeah,
I made a file.
We definitely advise making a file of sandpaper because when you're going up in grades, like it makes it so easy. So Karen's very organized, so she made this nice file of sandpaper grits, and it makes us very happy because it means you can grab them on hand straight away. So we spend a lot of time sanding at 120 grit, and then we tend to put our first layer of filler on. So one filler we've discovered recently, which we found out a lot of the ILM guys use, is called Dolphin Glaze. So this is a brushable filler, and it sticks to anything, and it does not come off. Like a lot of fillers we've used epoxies, and if you sand them too much, they get hot and they peel off. And also we've used 2-part fillers, and they're a bit more viscous and they tend to cure really quick. This stuff stays as a really nice liquid. You can brush it over, and it's really hard. So when you come to sand it, you can get really nice finishes with it.
I wish we discovered that a lot earlier. My life would have been a lot easier if we found that earlier.
This stuff's, and it's really cheap. I think we pay like £12 for this, and it goes a long way. It's really good stuff. And you can get, I understand you can get it in the US as well. But yeah, you can get it in the UK and Europe. It's really easy to get a hold of. And then after we've done that, we wet sand everything. We tend to do that with 400 grit sandpaper. And then after that, we tend to attack it with this. So we have to import this from America. It's a really good filler. It's called Bondo 907. I think it might be slightly illegal in Europe, possibly. And I think it's because it has more, it has whatever makes it thin. Basically, you can spend a long time brushing it into all of the cracks and like using a scalpel to get it nicely in. All of the knifing putties that we can get in Europe and in the UK, they tend to go off really quickly. And they're no good. This stuff, you've got about 5-10 minutes to get it into the crevices, and within 30 minutes, it's dry and ready to sand. Wow. And then after that, We've tried a lot of filler primers. So after another 400 grit of wet and dry, we go to Motip. So Motip, it's a really high build primer. It's really good because it fills all of the last little crevices. So once we've gone through like all of that and we've gone up to like 800 grit wet dry, normally we're getting close to being happy.
One thing, just showing you that these were mirrors from our weddings. It was just if you get like a glass surface, we found mirrors were great just for like a flat surface.
Yeah, if you can,
so
the more flat blocks you can use, the better. Because when we first got into sanding, especially when you're starting at the low grits like 120, it's really easy to burn through details and corners that you shouldn't. So having something solid like this really helps keep things neat.
Yeah, and just tape
and just tape it. But I mean, these three sort of fillers and sandpapers are pretty much all we use to make all of our pieces. And other than that, it's like
and then we've got files.
Yeah, you just make large collections of files. But yeah, these are pretty much our tools to make our finished pieces, and they make a massive difference to our life. Some of them we've taken a few years to discover. Some of them we got as tips from friends. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much our process in terms of props. I'm not sure if that answers your question on design or whether it was more about how to finish. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's really good. This is my latest tool. It's a very, very fine knife. It's used in woodworking. It has a very fine tip, extremely sharp. You hold it in your hand, and you use this motion like you're carving into wood to finish off like burrs and.
Oh, nice. There's a I don't know if you guys have heard of Adam Savage before. He's very popular on YouTube. He was in Mythbusters. So the technique he coined for that is called X-Acto scraping. So it sounds very similar. So effectively using an X-Acto blade to scrape over the surface. And we use that a lot, especially on surfaces that we can use it on. And these blades are so cheap as well, we can replace them really quickly.
So it's a scalpel.
Yeah, it's a scalpel.
But boys and girls, be really, really careful with those because this is so dangerous. We got one which is a retractable one, and they're great. They cost a lot more money, but they're really good. And I don't know where it is. I keep losing it. You mean these ones here, huh?
No. There's actually one for the Swan Morrison ones, the exact one you were showing before. It's like a blue handled one. I don't know where it is, but it basically takes those standard scalpel Swan Morrison blades that you were showing, like these ones here, but it retracts into the body. Because I really love these blades, but like you say, they are dangerous. We have cut ourselves so many times.
Are using them to cut, people.
Yeah. Well, we use them to cut people too. It's just not intentional.
Yeah, I've got so many little scars on my hands where it's like just little accidents where things have slipped. So yes, always be careful using knives.
I also had cut ones.
Yeah, the worst thing when you're working on a model and all of a sudden you see blood on the model and you didn't even notice that you cut yourself. And then, if you have a finished model but you're working just to fix some things and you have all like blood spots on the model, and I cut myself as well as so many times. It's just part of the process.
We said the armor wasn't any good until you bled over it.
Well, we've had that quite a few times.
Quite literally, blood, sweat, and tears is required sacrifice for good quality models.
Yeah.
We actually discovered that you have to be really careful with like scraping things off 3D print beds as well. I had a bad story once where those like the oyster knives that come with the lull spot. I don't know if you guys have seen. They're like this blue handle thing with a lovely knife. So I was pulling something off one day and I went straight over my thumb and cut straight through my nail bed. It was the worst pain for a month, and I have never done it again because it's horrible. Top tip: do not cut yourself.
Don't do that.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, I guess you guys must have some war wounds surely from 3D printers. You cannot do this without hurting yourself.
Yes.
Are you guys also using a micromotor, like a dental one, to to clean up stuff?
Yes, we have it's called a Proxon, so it's a little miniature oscillating head. So we don't use the Dremels because they're a bit too aggressive, and the RPMs are way too high. They burn through PLA too quickly. But there's a I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Proxon micro sander, and it's a little like nylon head. And you can do your own bits of sandpaper on it. We use that a lot for getting into little details that we can't with like rifling files and things like that. We were going to try and pull it out so we could have it here to show, but like because we're moving house, we've got so much stuff in boxes.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, it's you sort of collect your tools as you go, and I'm sure it's probably maybe a little bit different for everybody, but there's certainly some universal tools that work well for everybody.
Yeah.
That we've talked to, mainly sandpaper.
Yeah. This is a little Microlux sander. And it's from Micromark, and yeah, it's great for getting into things for sanding. And normally your pad on here that you glue your sandpaper on, but my cat knocked it off and broke it, so a new one on here.
One thing I was tempted to do, because I think the Proxon is near identical to that. We actually wanted to see if we could use the Formlabs tough resin to see if we could actually print for doing, because sometimes we make little sanding tools, like we'll print a little sanding tool which is the negative of the shape of the crevice that we want to sand. So we want it like later on, we're going to try and see if we can experiment printing those on a Formlabs with tough resin to see if we can actually like make some useful sanding tools for those things. But we haven't experimented with that yet, but that's the next tooling test that we're gonna try, I guess.
Yeah, that could be like a commercial idea if you can like create a custom tool set for a specific model. And
I've just seen the chat after Dark said Proxon, the 28594 12-volt pen sander PS13. That is absolutely the model. It's beautiful. I definitely advise that you get it if you're in, especially Marteinn for your X-Wings. Like they're great because they've got like little flat sanders, so you can get right up to edges really easily. They're lovely little bits of kit.
Yeah, I have to look at this.
And they're cheap. They're not that expensive either.
So it's not like a rotary tool. It's just vibration.
Yeah, it's a little oscillating tool. So it's tiny little tip that just sort of vibrates away on the surface, like a palm sander, but really tiny.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I'm like writing down on a document here all the ideas and products you're showing off.
I mean, there's a few key people that I followed on, believe it or not, Instagram in the past couple of years, because seemingly like the Star Wars prop community, especially like the ILM guys, are starting to like be able to show more off. I don't know whether they're just being kinder with their NDAs now, where it's like after the film's out you can talk about it. But I'm getting so many fantastic tips. There's like Neil Ellis on Instagram. I can't remember his actual handle, but I'll dig it out and I'll send it over. He posts loads of stuff of all of the kit bashed ILM models, and although they're not 3D printed, he every now and again drops a fantastic gem about like what tools he's used, or like, you know, like how he grooves out lines, and there's this special tool, and you're like, that's what I need. And sometimes you don't realize you need a tool till someone says, look at this tool, and you go, I need that tool.
There's quite often that you've been doing it some way, but then somebody has made a tool specific for it, and saves you a lot of time. And
and we take it as definitely a time saving thing. If there's a tool that can do it better than whatever you're doing now, why would you not use the tool?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I know when we were doing the Falcon, when we were working on that, I actually, for a while, I actually developed a phobia of touching sandpaper. I couldn't touch sandpaper for a while because I was working on my Captain Phasma, which we've got down to 2,000 grit.
Yeah, you have to like all that process with sanding. When it comes to doing things that need to be chroma reflective, you just need to keep going another 5 times.
But we got down to like 2,000 grit, which is basically like sanding with A4 paper. It was so fine.
Yeah.
But while doing Captain Phasma, we're also working on the Falcon, and there was just so much sanding that I actually developed a phobia where I never wanted to touch sandpaper again. Fortunately, that passed. Luckily for Luke, that passed because otherwise a lot of things wouldn't get sanded. yeah, it was.
It was good.
Yeah, definitely a learning curve with learning about sandpaper and all the different grits and.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah,
the stream. The stream we were watching. We watched obviously the American one last week with Jimmy DiResta, and he touched on something really succinct for me, which was that 3D printing is really a means to an end. Like for us, especially for us making molds, it's all about getting to that point where we can do a mold from it, or we can make something. So I guess for us, it's 3D printing is definitely part of that tool chain. But maybe we're coming the other way, where we're starting with 3D print and we want to move into doing CNC and molding and casting like that. So I guess we're going opposite directions.
Yeah, it's definitely like for those models I've been doing it. The 3D printing part of it is a minor part of the whole process. I don't spend so much time on 3D printing the model.
Yeah,
I spend a week on each model, painting and processing and sanding, and it's in that regard same for the landscape models. 3D printing, and that's just exporting a file from my mapping data set into STL, and this takes maybe 25 to 30 hours to print, and then my hobby starts with the painting. So
I guess ours is probably like the two ends of it. It's probably the start and the end, because the design time is probably about the same length as the finishing time. But I think that's because I'm maybe not the most efficient modeler. Like I have a friend in America called Sean Fields. You should definitely go check him out on Instagram. He makes things so quick, and it's so horrible to see. Because he'd be like, "Oh, I just spent 2 hours," and it's like, "Here's a Mandalorian helmet," like that. Meanwhile, I'm like a week in, and I've just got the shape, like just the outer shape. I get so hung up on the tiny little details that I can't move past them. It's a bad habit, but like, I can't get away from it.
But his work is.
Yeah, but his work is amazing.
Watching Peter work, since his job is props in the movie industry, when I was doing something here, he came down, sat in front of this computer, and did more in 10 minutes than I could have done in a week.
It's frustrating because if I was doing that full time, I'd like to think I could get faster, but I'm happy with what we're doing, ish.
Yeah.
I just would wish I was faster.
Here's the set that I'm working on, and getting to this is just half the job. Now I get to sand and stain, because it's printed in wood filament.
Oh, that's beautiful. We've never experimented with any exotics. Like I got the Lulzbot because it can do lots of filaments and lots of different temperatures, and I've printed nothing but ABS. Like I'm terrible. Sorry, PLA, not ABS.
The multi-material unit 2 sitting behind me, and rough cords box sitting behind me, and I just got the shipping notice that the upgrade from Prusa shipped and should be here early next week.
Oh, nice.
Then I'll be getting into my dream for working with this is having multiple wood filaments and blending them together with the models. And
nice.
With the key component for that, Prusa has the white to another object. So the idea is when you're changing colors, it'll go to a different object where it doesn't matter to you what color it is, and it'll finish clearing or purging that.
Oh,
color.
like a purge tower kind of thing.
Yeah, but you're actually printing an object.
Oh,
and
okay.
What I'm thinking is that will be my final object, because you'll get the transition for the woods on that one. Instead of layer by layer, it'll be
nice.
The fade of the transition. So now with the parts all arriving, that's what I'll be getting into.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
That'll be really cool.
Which means I'll be buying more wood filaments. But
we need to experiment more.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean,
Fun.
I tell a lie. Other than PLA, we did buy some of the PHB filament, because that's one thing on Kickstarter that did arrive was the polisher by Polysmooth, and I really did love that. It was a little bit small, and the first version of the nebulizer wasn't great, but I did buy the second one. I just haven't played with it more yet.
Yeah.
But I quite like the idea of that technology because it smooths it quite a lot.
Well, one of the big advantages for me was signing up for MakerBox, and every month getting the 4 samples. Now getting is it 9 total? You get 5 PLA and the 4 exotics, and that allows you to play.
Yeah, my one worry, Richard, is that your shelf behind you with all those maker boxes is what my entire house will look like, because I'll just have 100,000 boxes of filament that I'll one day maybe play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a MakerBox subscription as well, and I do videos on each material. Like have a regular show like MakerBox Mondays on my channel. So I do a review of the contents of the box, and then I print out each material and always finish up the material and do each video on each material. It's good fun because with a strange filament, sometimes you get filaments that you get a sample that I don't know in grams, but it won't last you because you're having trouble tuning in the profile for it, and it won't stick to the bed, and you try something else. But I love to experiment, and sometimes I have nothing to show for in the video, and then I'll just show blobs and jam filament and whatnot, stringy stuff, and all the problems I had. But I'll do a video on it either way, and it's good fun.
Yeah, I mean, like we probably will, because I would definitely like to get a Prusa, like the Prusa Mark. Is it the Mark 3s that are out now?
Yeah,
they look 3S.
Yeah, they look so good. Like I kind of think I didn't want one because we've got the Lulzbot, which is for the big dumb stuff, and then we've got the Formlabs, which is for the small awesome stuff. But like, I didn't think I needed a Prusa, but maybe I don't need one, but I want one because they look like fun. Like all the tech they've got with like bed leveling, and the fact you could assemble it like 45-degree angle and it would still print straight. Like I want to play with all that stuff. It looks good.
It's awesome. You will enjoy if you have one.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I think the other thing as well, I looked at like not MakerBots, Ultimakers. I think I like the concept of them purely because they've got such a light carriage. Like the Lulzbot has got so much mass in its carriage that I either want to do an upgrade on it where I replaced it with an open rail system instead of the rods. But then you look at things like the Ultimaker, and it's such a low mass printing head that I'm like, maybe I want to play with something like that. I don't know. There's a few things I want to play with. I want to play with everything, really.
Yeah.
It's picking and choosing the battles that's the problem.
Yeah.
There's only so much time, and there's so many printers, and so much time.
I don't want to make any false advertisement here, but we had, or might still have, I'm not sure, Carl in the chat, and that printer that he designed with the 45-degree angle, I think it was.
Oh, yes. Is
the
that
belt printer?
Is that the one? The belt printer looks so damn cool.
Yeah.
The white knight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
White Knight, yes.
Earlier suggested you to buy one of his kits.
Yes, then I would. Yeah, honestly, there's 2 bits of tech that I really want for before we build the next big prop, and one is the White Knight, and the other is I've been hounding. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's a company called Shaper Origin in America. They make like this smart CNC thing. It's like a handheld router, but you can send all of your plans to it and just route around. I absolutely torment those guys on Instagram every time they post something. I'm like, is it coming to the UK yet? What about now? What about now? I was like sending them pictures of the Falcon. I'm like, you see all this? I could be doing this with the Shaper. So maybe one day my persistence will pay off, or I'll be blocked from their social media. One of the two.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. Like I wanted to back them on Kickstarter back in, I think it was like 2014, maybe even. It was as long ago as that. And I was like, I want to back it. And then they went US only, but we'll be there within a year or two. I'm like, come on, guys, it's 2019 now. Where's my Shaper? looks
Either
like such
that,
a
or
fun
they
bit of
can
kit.
just give, like, just hopefully they'll give you one just to shut you up.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that would be lovely.
That would
yeah.
be really nice.
I was almost tempted to get one of my American friends to buy it and ship it over to me, but I didn't do that because it's all in Imperial at the moment, and my brain doesn't work very well in Imperial units. I prefer metric.
Yeah, and probably just 110 volt as well. So.
Yeah, there's ways around that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, as an electronic engineer, I can maybe make a transformer. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'd be upsetting myself if I couldn't do that bit. But yeah, I want that bit of kit. The White Knight looks amazing, though.
Well, I got caught by the Imperial issue during the show last week because I needed a small block. Here's the finished product. And when I looked at my printer, it was printing something this size. And I realized that,
Oh dear.
I'm glad I caught it in time before it printed the whole thing because it was 100% infill.
Oh my lord. Yeah, that's not a mistake you want to make.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think STLs at their core are meant to be millimeters. I remember reading something that said STLs are millimeters by default. Like that is what they are meant to be.
Yeah.
Well,
not
actually,
really. No, they don't have any size really. An STL file just has a shape. You give them the millimeters or inches in your slicer. So whatever you are have preset will the size of the model appear. As far as I know.
No, that could be correct. It was a long time ago I read on it. Honestly, it drives me crazy that Imperial still exists in the world. Like England, we came along and went, Imperial, everybody should convert to it. Then the whole world did and went, actually, guys, it's a bad idea. So we changed, Europe changed, and America just went, nope, we're going to stick with Imperial.
Yeah.
And a few other stalwarts. But yeah, it's crazy. I hate converting to metric and Imperial.
With I think it was Shell Oil, when Canada made the transition, somebody just translated gallons to liters and didn't actually change the units. They just changed the unit that was shown on it. And for 5 years, that went unnoticed.
Really? Holy hell.
Yeah. I know the lady had to fix it, and she was pounding her head through the screen repeatedly.
That's crazy.
But no, my problem didn't come from the actual software. It came from my calipers because, they have the button for, doing material.
Yeah.
And when I unfounded it in, I didn't actually pay attention. I just put the number over. So. Yeah,
my favorite thing is when somebody gives me a dimension in Imperial, and fortunately I don't have to sweat it because if I'm going directly into CAD like SolidWorks or Fusion, you can just do basic arithmetic directly with metric. Like you can be like 4 in plus 2 millimeters, and it'll just work it out. The developers know exactly what people face, and I'm so happy they featured that in.
Yeah, that's a really good feature. I had this as well with the calipers, switching over to inches, and you enter in the value, and you don't give it thought. And
yeah. What are you guys all using in terms of software for those guys who are doing design stuff?
I'm using Fusion 360.
Okay.
I'm using Tinkercad at the moment.
Oh, nice.
Me too. But I even created a series of jewelry with it, so it's possible.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
360 and what else do I have in here? DAS, which started using decades ago. It feels like Hexagon 2, which is part of the DAS setup, and there's a ZBrush Core right now. But ZBrush Core, I think when the money allows, I'm going to upgrade to full ZBrush. These horse heads I start in DAS, but I finish them in ZBrush. And for a lot of my organic models, ZBrush is the way to go. But if you're working with
organic
objects, Fusion 360 is a fantastic program. and you can't beat the price because it's free if you're,
You can't be free.
$100,000 a year from it. So
yeah. We use a combination between either like SolidWorks, ZBrush, or Fusion 360.
Yeah.
I actually only got into Fusion 360 last year because there's nothing in the SolidWorks toolset that lets you do sub-D modeling, which is like the more organic surfaces, but still under engineering control, so to speak. I still prefer SolidWorks for like the regular, like square, rectangle, like things I can really mathematically calculate out in my head. But when it comes to organics, ZBrush is got to be the best tool. But Fusion 360, if I want to make it like a neat organic, if you know what I mean, like something that's like a piece of armor for a leg, like if you pass the shin over, like all the Captain Marvel stuff, we've loved doing in Fusion 360. But it's certainly been a challenge. But I wish the SolidWorks. I've been trying to hammer the SolidWorks guys to make a Maker's Edition, because I'd love more people to be able to use it, because some of the tools in it are fantastic. There's a tool called the Flex tool, so you can model your thing in flat, and then you can just say bend, and it'll deform the model, and then that's it. You can save it.
Yeah, I'm looking for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you need me to run it, if you've got any simple flexes, I'll happily run them for you. Because I'm fortunate. We got invited out to SolidWorks World this year and the year before. So when they found that I'd done work on the Falcon project, they asked me to come out and present my work. And so they said, they gave me a license, because I only had like a really, really old 2012 version. So yeah, they helped me out with that. And so I just wish they did a Maker Edition. So I'm hammering hard for the Maker community, because I really want the Maker Edition of SolidWorks.
Sounds interesting. I never worked with SolidWorks. I'm only in Fusion 360, and even that I didn't discover all in the whole. It's a huge program. You can basically do everything with it if you know how. But sometimes it's so complicated to get where you want to.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, I think sometimes I forget what programs I've been through, because in my high school era I used Pro Desktop, which was like Pro Engineer. In my day job, I used Inventor, so I've used a lot of different softwares, and sometimes I forget what I've learned in different programs. So when it wasn't until Karen came along and tried to use one of the bits of software, and I went, "Well, just extrude." She's like, "What do you mean extrude?"
Oh God,
I
was literally thrown at the deep end.
Yeah, and my friend tried SolidWorks as well, because I sat him down in front. I was like, "Go through the tutorial, see what you think." And he's like, "I don't know what a boss is." Like, he's a radiologist, and he's like, "I know what carpal tunnels." I don't even know doctor words. Like, I know what your body parts are. But he's like, I haven't got space in my head for all these weird engineering words. So I think that's the big challenge for people, learning all the weird terminology for 3D modeling.
During the mid-90s, I was working for the Sony dealership, professional equipment. So they're selling to video companies, what have you. My job was testing not only editing software, but all the various graphic software that came in. So a lot of the stuff was in beta. So he ended up using several dozen different programs over the years. And okay, I know what I want to do, but what does this company call doing this procedure? And that's been the challenge I've had with the ZBrush, is it's such a totally different headspace once you've gotten into the Fusion 360 world. So just making that change, it's doable. I've done it before, but getting older, I'm finding it to be more of a challenge.
I don't even think it's that, Richard. I genuinely think Fusion 360 is the worst designed user interface program, and I will happily go on record, because it is. One of my friends described it as a drunk superhero. It has all of the power, but no direction. Like, I remember sitting for 20 minutes going, where's all these other features that people are talking about in this panel?
Yeah.
Because for some reason in ZBrush, they've put the scroll bar on the left side of the windows. Why? Why would you do that? No other program does it. Mac doesn't do it. PC doesn't. But ZBrush, we're special. We're going to put the scroll bar on the left side. It's just, I'm getting wound up. I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I really want to be good at ZBrush, and I feel like the user interface is hurting me, and I can't maybe accept the fact that maybe I just won't get my head around it for a long time.
The one thing I found back when I was doing all the testing with the various software was the reaction from the people who actually wrote the programs and the designers. You do something and they get, we didn't know that could do that. You know, they know what they've designed, but they don't know how the artist can combine all these tools to make something new. And that's where you don't go to the company, go to the users and find out how they're doing things. And that is quite often the better way to learn how to use the software.
Yeah, all the art guys I know that are using ZBrush are just frustratingly brilliant at it, and it really annoys me. Because I just look at what they do, I'm like, oh God, if I had 1 ounce of your knowledge on ZBrush. It's just, there was a guy who talked about the 20-hour, I don't know if you guys have read anything about this, like the 20-hour skill curve, which basically says if you can put 20 hours into something, you can get a moderate enough proficiency to get past most learning curves. So I haven't quite done the 20-hour challenge. The idea being that you'd spend maybe 2-3 weeks doing specifically 20 hours in one piece of software so that you can get a good proficiency. And I need to do this with ZBrush. I just haven't got my head around doing it yet.
But the rewards are great because the work people do is amazing. And at the little that I've done, with the horses and being able to put, the detailing on the lips and cracked lips. And one horse I just finished, she just turned 27. This is Wendy. She's from the therapeutic riding program. She scratched her chin, her mouth is open. And I got a lot of finishing to do on the model still, but her mouth is open and I got detailing on her lips to match the actual horse. So.
No, that's really cool.
And I couldn't do it in any other program the way I'm doing it. I know other programs you can do it, but with ZBrush,
it's best in class.
It allows you to do it.
Yeah.
It's just getting into that headspace.
Yeah, I can do really basic detailing in ZBrush. Like, I can do alpha overlays. Like this buckle's got like a rib texture on it, because this is printed on the Formlabs printer. So I can do like basic stuff and use little brushes to do little damaging details, but I could at the moment there's no way I could do a base sculpt in ZBrush. My mind does not work that does not work that way yet. I hope it does one day. Because I think the speed, some of the guys, like there's Tom Spina does some stuff in there, and Gordon Tarpley is one of the big guys I follow on YouTube. He does like C3PO stuff, but he sculpts it all in ZBrush. And my Lord, he's like, I'm just going to move this line. And I'm thinking, if I was doing this in Fusion 360, I would have broken my parametric feature tree. I would have had to start again because I would have broken everything by now. And he's just like, I'm just going to move this up. And he just grabs it and just pushes it. And I'm like, that would be nice.
Do any of you use Blender?
I used Blender when I first started, but I haven't touched it since 2003, probably. It's a long time ago now.
I tried it, but I failed terribly. I tried to model something, but everything, all I got was just a little blob that looked like some bacteria or something like that.
We have Vicky who swears by it, and she's done incredible work. But it's another free one, but it's one that I tried when I started, but I haven't pursued it.
I think I really enjoyed it because it was a good meshing tool for blocking things out very quickly. But my biggest, when things started to get complicated, you started having to deal with things like making things watertight. And I guess the tools have certainly moved on now. So I'm definitely working on older preconceptions of the software. But that's why I ended up moving to things like SolidWorks and Fusion 360, because I knew they just natively made more watertight models. And coming from an engineering background, like I wanted models that were integrally solid. I didn't want to spend my time fixing models. I wanted to spend them just printing them. So I know Blender certainly came on leaps and bounds. So I don't want to give anybody many misinformation. But yeah, that was my limitation in Blender. I spent more time tweaking the models to be watertight than I did actually making the model.
What about your preferences for slicers?
We use Simplify 3D. I started with Slicer back when I had my RepRap, and then I upgraded to Simplify 3D and never moved back. But I'm kind of getting the opinion now that Cura has kind of really raised its game, and it's maybe on par now. I don't know what you guys using. What do you guys think about that?
I'm using both, the same level. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using Slicer Prusa Edition, and that has come quite a long way in the last 1.5 years, and like with multiple processes in Simplify 3D and custom supports and all those fancy features on Simplify 3D they were talking about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All of that is in the free slicers now. So
Yeah.
there's like no reason to use Simplify 3 anymore, and they don't seem to care about the community at any level.
Yeah. I mean, they're charging for their new version now, aren't they? They're going to make it like a paywall to get to the next upgrade, I think.
Yeah. You have to pay for the upgrade, and they're not fixing issues, but people are talking about issues people are having, and
I mean, my biggest gripe with Simplify 3D is just backing up profiles. Like, doesn't matter how many times I read the threads on how to correctly back up my profiles, it never seems to work properly. People are like, you need to pull things out your registry and save this FFF file, and I'm just like, this is too complicated. Just let me back up my profiles.
Yeah.
Because when you delete a print, it's really easy if you've got like your profile selected and you just hit the delete key and you go, oh no. I've done that several times.
Yeah.
I'm almost using exclusively the Slicer PE or Slicker, and it looks like Prusa Research is putting a lot of manpower behind improving it. So
nice.
It's great now. It's going to be interesting to see in the future. My biggest problem with it is the custom supports. And I've gotten to the point where I just put my supports in Fusion 360.
Yeah.
Now in the latest version of Slicer Prusa Edition, the custom support things has been really easy. Now you can move around the blocks in the 3D space, and
it's better. That's true.
And you can import models. You can, like, if you it's called custom modifiers, and you can put in objects to modify the slicer settings for a part of the part, and so you can embed a 3D object as a modifier, and so even if you want to model in strength in certain areas of the part, or you want to model in supports, or where you don't want supports, it's very easy to work with now. So it's quite a lot of change in the latest versions of Slicer.
My actual favorite tool that came up recently is the ability to click on which surface you want on the bed.
Nice.
So much time rotating. Now another 5 degrees, whatever. Now it's I want that one on the bed, and it's done.
I would love that in Simplify 3D. The amount of times I've not reviewed the G code before sending it, and then there's like a little bit off the bed, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got to go back and do this again and rotate it by 0.25 degrees or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
I'm having a problem right now with the Slicer program that I have.
Yeah. There's I think the one bit of software that helped me get around that was, I think it was NetFab. It's Autodesk, because Autodesk bought out NetFab, or they've made it as part of their product portfolio now, and you can select a face and make that flat to the bottom. I've used that before for things that are a little bit more obscure. It's a pretty good tool.
Yeah.
And I use it because it repairs a lot of stuff. Sorry, what was that, Richard?
Oh, I was saying the only thing I'm fighting with right now with Slicker is I'm using Octoprint, and I have the Octolapse edition for recording the video. But you need to position the head right at the start, which is I think a G90 command, and I put that into the profile. Every time I load it, it's gone. So I have to go put it back in. So I actually just go edit the G code before I print it. But I should be able to have it set up so it's just automatically there. But Octolapse doesn't like the way the Prusa switcher where it positions it.
Yeah, definitely. Slicker certainly taught me a lot about how G-code worked as well, because it was very hands-on. Like there was a lot of tuning bits and pieces, and I remember like if there was a power cut, I didn't want to waste the print, so I sort of went in the G-code and cut out the first 10,000 lines or whatever it was. So I measured with a vernier on the bed how far the print was and found the line where it started just to try and restart it. And I think I got about 3 or 4 successes like that, but that was like probably as advanced as I got with G-code, trying to like save prints. But fortunately, Slicker being so terrible taught me a lot about G-code. Back in the day anyway. I'm sure it's better now.
It has much improved, especially the Prusa edition. They are working on many things, and you can now, I think, get many printers that you can get it to work with other printers, not only with the Prusa ones.
You create profiles for whatever printer, and it's not a problem. It's not only for the Prusa printers.
Yes.
So, I use slice everything on my CR10 on the Slicer Prusa edition slicers.
Yeah, I think what turned me on to looking at maybe that we need to start playing with Cura is Chep. He does his Filament Friday videos. Yeah, and like all the little cool little tips he's been doing have all been like, so in Cura, you can do this fuzzy skin. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He's like, in Cura, you can do polished surface. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I go back to Simplify 3D. I'm like, you don't do any of this. What are you guys doing? Like, they're going to charge people more money, and they're doing nothing.
Nothing. It's ridiculous that they're charging you again. If you want to go into that upgrade, I'm not going to go with them.
What are they actually doing in the new version?
Yeah.
What is their standard feature?
Nobody knows.
They don't communicate.
Maybe fixes this time.
Because like all I could find out about it was that it's a new platform. It's going to be more efficient, so we can go further. I'm like, so wait there, you're going to make us pay for something that is only as good as what we have now because you might make something better in the future. I don't understand that logic.
Yeah, they're going to lose so many customers.
They're screwed up on so many levels. I think people, especially in the maker community, when people can get better slicers for free, and like with Cura and Slicer, both of those slicers are getting updates every month or whatnot. So both with Cura has come a long way in a very short time, and same with Slicer. Prusa has like 7 developers working just on the Slicer profiles.
Yeah,
program.
I mean, we use a Simplify 3D at work because basically the tool chain I have at home is the tool chain I have at work, because my justification to my boss was, well, I've got it at home. If it breaks, I can fix it. So I've got like a Lulzbot at work, a Lulzbot at home. I have a Foam Labs at home, a Foam Labs at work, and I've got Simplify 3D at both. But the bit that really sticks at work is you can't set any proxies. So they have to communicate with their licensing server. So you try and open the program and it goes, can't communicate with the server. We had a ticket open with Simplify 3D 2.5-3 years ago saying we can't connect. How do we use your software? And they just flat out ignored us. And the company I work for is a fairly sizable company, and they just ignored that ticket. So it's not like they're ignoring like the individual users and paying attention to big companies. They're just ignoring everyone by the sounds of it.
They're just screwing up badly on communications and things are like simple things that people are asking for. There's just nothing happening.
Yeah, I don't know how their future is going to be, but I definitely Cura I think is in our future. I certainly won't pay for the Simplify 3D upgrade, but I'll definitely start playing with Cura. I think the only reason that's keeping with Simplify 3D is just the fact that I know it and I know how it works. And Cura, I guess, is a little bit of a different beast.
Yeah, it has a learning curve like any other slicer has, but it's okay.
Okay, Cool. I'll try
Yeah,
it out.
you can choose in the beginning. You want a basic setup, intermediate setup, or expert setup, and you can choose how many functions you want to have visible. And in the beginning you just start with the basic and get used to those tools, and then go on from there.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
good.
okay.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely try that out.
Yeah, I've been using Simplify 3D version 4.0, and I just downloaded the Cura 4. What is it? The 4.0 or 3.9 or something like that yesterday. So I'm gonna try out the new Cura to see how that is.
Nice. I think there'll be a lot of people doing this because, especially if Simplify 3D are making people pay for the next version, that means they're going to be dropping support for this current version at some point. Like it's going to happen, and yeah, I kind of want to know Cura before it gets to that point. Before I get to the point where I suddenly can't print and I have to learn a new piece of software.
As for the Moya printer, they've come out with a new slicer for it. I can't even think of the name right now, but I've been doing mostly FDM printing for the last couple of months, so I get to go through the process of learning a new slicer. I've been using Cura for it, but they're trying to put all the development into this new one.
Nice. That'd be really cool. I mean, do you guys have like some central place that you look at profiles? Because I always like with Simplify 3D, the great thing about the community, at least early on, was that everyone was sharing really great profiles on the Simplify 3D forum. But is there the same sort of community for Cura? Are people like sharing like, here's my Lulzbot profile with this filament?
Yeah, you should take a look if there's a Facebook group.
Okay.
Yeah. For instance, I have a Craftbot 3, and they have a very good community, and they have different profiles available.
Oh, nice.
Also for Craftware, for Simplify 3D, and I also uploaded one for Cura. So yeah.
Oh, nice. I'll check that out.
Yeah, but it's specifically for the printer, so you have to look for Lulzbot then.
Yeah. Lulzbot has been my absolute workhorse. We've printed so much stuff on it. It's just like a tank. It just keeps going.
Well, I'm going to have to head out here. It's been great to meet you folks, and I've enjoyed, what you can do with the software, and there's, the stuff from both Star Wars and yes, Star Trek.
All of the stars.
The Cosmos done some incredible work out there. Anyways, I'll just make my quick output right now. You can find me at zidim.com for all the various things that I do. And I'm a regular on this. We're talking about education on next week's Friday night chat. So we'll talk to you later. Take care, folks.
Pleasure to meet you, Richard. Thanks for.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again on the streams.
Yeah, I can talk again, so that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's been one hell of a ride in the 3D printing world for us. It's definitely a ride to go forward.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is there anything you guys are looking forward to in the 3D printing community? Like, obviously there's the White Knight. Is there anything else we don't know about, like, that I can get excited about?
The tool changer from E3D.
The tool. Oh yes. Oh God, yes.
Yeah, you should have that one. Because you could do so many things. It's not limited to 3D printing only. You could put on any kind of tool.
Oh,
paste extruder or CNC stuff, so
oh, nice.
You could go crazy.
I will go crazy.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I've looked at those like big 3D printers, the ones where they're printing like entire walls or like half buildings out of concrete, and I'm just like, oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Not that I'd have anywhere to build something that big, but it would be nice to say, okay, I've 3D printed my wall.
Yeah, maybe you build yourself a hang printer.
Yeah, no, that would be cool.
Yeah,
I've seen the ones where people are. I saw one printer where you could suspend them from the corners of the room, and then
Yes, that's the hang printer.
Oh, the hang printer. Okay, cool.
It's from a Swedish guy, but he has Torvalds, blah blah blah. He has such a
Torbjörn, yes.
yeah.
Before I get a hang printer, I'd rather get a beton printer.
Concrete
Which
printer. Concrete printer.
Oh, concrete. Yeah, that would be cool.
Concrete. Yeah, and print my own house.
Yeah.
I would love to print my own house. I'm not so sure we could deal with living in a caravan for 6 years while we deal with filament problems trying to print the house, though.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it would be good fun. I think in terms of definitely for Star Wars props for us, like I think we're just going to keep making as much stuff as we can until people are sick of us, which is probably already.
I think with Star Wars, it's an endless fan base of Star Wars stuff, and
we've got the Mandalorian now.
Yes, we've started working on parts of the Mandalorian. So we've started designing his pistol, and maybe some of the armor. So after Captain Marvel, maybe that'll be the next ridiculous project we decide to throw all of our
There's
time
always
into.
something on.
Yeah.
Talking about Star Wars, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
I was looking at I got this page open, LukeDaleyProps.com.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, that's you. And all of a sudden, I see some pictures here. Millennium Falcon, UltraCon 2017.
Yes.
Who the hell made that?
That was us. That was us. There was about a team of maybe 4 to 6 of us, and that was what we spent printing for the 2 years that we were. I think you might have came into the stream a little bit late, but effectively that was.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was effectively what we spent 2 years doing, but we have no documentation of because we basically we just didn't do that.
No.
So yeah, that was a lot of that was designed all in SolidWorks. We wired like 2,500 to 3,000 LEDs on panels. It has a full consumer electric box in it, smoke machines, lights, ramps, like foam in the corridor. We threw everything.
We did.
The interior specifically was what we spent most of our time on. So whether it was painting floors or fitting lights, that was pretty much all of our work.
Cool.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, it's like fan art taken to the extreme, I would say.
It was.
If I was a millionaire, one thing's for sure, I'd have a room that would look like that.
Well, we can help you out with that if you ever win the lottery. You know where we are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had the funniest story we had is the nav chairs in the front are actually fully welded steel and aluminium. So I had a local machine shop that I worked with. I did all the design files for all the parts, and they basically laser cut them all or hand cut them and then welded them up for me. And I went in, and the machine shop owner was like, honestly, my productivity has been through the floor because everybody has just been asking me, can I weld something on this? Can I cut something for this? Because they all just wanted to say they'd had a part in it. And I think that was the thing we discovered the most. Anybody who was involved in that project just loved doing anything.
Whether it was just here's a screwdriver, can you please just screw these screws in for us? So
And it's crazy because when we looked at it when it was finished, it was the end of the second year that it had been out, when we had all the parts painted and finished, and it was quiet. It was the end of the event, and we walked in and sat in the seats for just a minute and just went. It didn't even feel like something we'd worked on anymore because it took on this whole new thing. It stopped being something we'd spent so much time and effort and sweat and tears and blood in. Yeah, and blood, lots of blood.
It's okay, we cleaned it up.
We cleaned it. It's just weathering. It's fine.
It's just weathering.
Things have happened in the Millennium Falcon. It's an action movie, so
yeah, it is. Yeah, it was so much good fun. But sitting in it in the end, it just took on something else. And I think anybody who'd worked on it just said the same sort of thing. It didn't feel like they had any part in it anymore because it was such a big project. Like, we had woodwork as carpenters, electricians, all sorts. It was a real team effort, and it the results were beautiful. And I don't feel bad about saying that because it wasn't just my work. That's also the great thing about it being a group project. You can be proud of it because it's also someone else's job.
I mean, that thing, God, I wish I had something like that.
Well, you guys actually do. There's a guy called Greg in Huntsville, Alabama, and he also has a 1-to-1 scale Falcon. So we actually met last. I got invited to ThinkerCon in November last year with the SolidWorks guys. So I went out there, and randomly one of the guys on one of the tables went, because they saw my presentation where I talked about the Falcon. They went, "Oh yeah, we've heard about you. You only live down the road." I went, "No, I'm from the UK." They went, "But there's a guy here in Huntsville who does the Falcon." And so completely randomly, unexpected, I've known about this guy for years, but I had no idea he lived in Huntsville. So we ended up meeting, and we spent 3 hours talking the nerdiest rubbish about how long we spent looking for switches and buttons and that LED and this lens. And it was the nerdiest conversation on the planet. It was ridiculous. But it was so gratifying. But yeah, you guys have got one out there in the States. If you look on the RPF for the 1-to-1 Millennium Falcon project, he's out there, and they take it out to conventions, and it's a beautiful piece of kit.
Well, that'd be too expensive for me to fly over there to the States.
Ah, well, then you need to come to the UK next time Ultracon's on.
Dawn is in Germany. So.
Yeah, of course, yes. Sorry, that's right. My mistake.
But I'm now living closer to you guys, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I was in South Germany. Now I'm living in Northwest.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we were. I was just in Hanover last month for Hanover Fair, so we were. I got the chance to check out that place. That was really nice.
Yeah, he was only about 190 kilometers away from me.
Oh, nice. It is a small world, and the internet certainly makes it smaller again.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
But if you in my set of links, if you go through my my Instagram videos somewhere, there's a full video tour of the Falcon. So it goes around the outside and it takes you up the ramp, and you can see all the lights, because it actually stands about 1.5 meters off the floor. The whole thing's raised. So it's not just the cockpit; it's a fully standing, like, massive prop. I think it takes Yeah, it takes like 2 articulated trucks and 2 town vans, forklifts, and about 10 to 15 people to put together.
That was a bit hair-raising watching it go together.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, it's we don't know what's coming next.
No.
We'll just ride the wave.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I think we're probably going to dip out because we're at about 20 to 12, and this is about the Karen power down time, where she starts to get low power mode.
Yeah. For me, myself, I'm getting pretty tired as well. So, like, we have been for 2.5 hours, and that's pretty good. And we pretty much stayed on a subject for 2.5 hours as well. So that's a new one.
I mean, I kind of feel it's maybe an unfair advantage because it's Star Wars, and you could just keep talking about that forever. So.
Yeah.
But thank you all for welcoming us here. We felt really welcome.
Thank you so much.
We've really enjoyed it, and I hope we can contribute in the future. We've really enjoyed being part of this.
Yeah, we have a Twitter group to organize, and it's always welcome to come back.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah. So
I'm more than happy that you were here.
Awesome, thank you.
So, and I think you have a bunch of new followers now too.
Oh, nice.
on all of your channel. I just started following you on Instagram, and I think I'm already following you on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have to say, for those people who are following us or looking at our stuff on YouTube, there is a pause, obviously, because we're just about to move house. So there'll be a small break in our content, but we're still active on Instagram and our Facebook pages. But the YouTube stuff it's just on pause because the production stuff takes so much time at the moment. But we'll be back to it really soon.
That's I'm there in YouTube and in Facebook. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
yeah, and I put your links in the video description so people watching this can see everybody's links and channels and social media links and all that in the video description. So if people are watching this.
Is there a way I can get everybody's links who's in this chat tonight so I can follow you guys? Because I know I've got you, Kat, and obviously I've got the 3D print chat, but I don't think I've got Mia or...
Yeah, everybody is in the video description.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll check them all. We'll follow all you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So so awesome. Thank you very much for joining in. It was very cool.
Thank you. And good night, everybody. Thank you very much for
Take care.
being so supportive. Thanks. Catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah,
so-
I'm also gonna drop out.
Yeah, I think this will be a good end for the stream. So
Yeah.
you want to say your goodbyes to the people watching? It's been a great show.
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. So bye-bye, everybody. I hope you liked the stream this evening. Yeah, and hope that you tune in next time too. And maybe if you want to be part of the show, just contact Martin or some other guys in here, and we would love to for you to join in. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, so I'll just end the stream and thanks everybody for watching. So take care.